All right, we'll reconvene to open session at 6:55. I apologize, we stayed out longer than we should have. Let's start with the pledge. Michael, you want to lead us?
Ready? You good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had two actions taken in closed session. The board met and conferred in closed session pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9A and D2 and agreed to approve a settlement agreement with the SBS Corporation related to the Palos High School Classroom Building Project. 5 ayes, no, 0 noes. We also approved a settlement agreement by the following roll call vote: 5 ayes, no noes, on a special education settlement. The facts and circumstances and a copy of the settlement agreement are being withheld due to the student privacy rights pursuant to 20 U.S.C. Section 1232G and Education Code Section 49060 et sec. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We now have oath of office and our newly appointed board member.
At this time, I'd like to ask Linda Reed to join us up on the stage for her oath of office.
This and graduation are the two fun parts.
It's everything else but in between.
Okay. We're going to stand right here by the flag.
Is this that thing I read before about all
Yep.
enemies, foreign and domestic? Okay.
This is it. Linda, yes. Right hand. Thank you. All right. Just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Linda Reed,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and I will and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. I know it is.
Linda, welcome. Turns out that oath of office is the same oath giving to everybody, from the governor to judges to state legislators to city council people and school board members. So you join a small fraternity. Reported this, board president announcements. Kindergarten and new student enrollment. Kindergarten and new student enrollment for the 2015-16 school year begins February 2nd, 2015. All students who are new to the district for the 2015-16 school year will begin the two-step enrollment process by completing online application enrollment at PVPUSD.net. Students who will be 5 on or before December 2nd, 2015 are eligible to enroll in either the transitional kindergarten or the kindergarten program. Parents are invited to district-wide kindergarten parent information meetings on January 27th and January 28th. For details about special events and new student enrollment at all grade levels, please view the district website at pvpusd.net. And then high school choice. All students entering 9th grade in fall 2015 must select their high school of attendance. Students may choose either Palos Verdes High School or Palos Verdes Peninsula High School. Parents and students can make their selection by completing the high school choice application they received in the mail and return it by Wednesday, February 18th. Applications are also available on the district website. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of December 11th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? One abstention. Abstain. Cool. All right.
You say cool.
Cool. That works. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you. So again, welcome, Linda, to the board. Happy to have you here. And again, very pleased with the work our board did throughout the entire process, the selection process. It seems like quite a while ago now, but fantastic work all the way around. I need to start today with sad news, and we had an unfortunate, certainly untimely death of a student, a current Rancho Del Mar High School student, former Penn High School student. I'm gonna withhold the name because at this point we're still contacting people and trying to find people who need help and support, and this would be an inappropriate place to state the name at this point. On the other side of that, I do want to thank everyone who put so much effort into preparation for crisis moments, and today when we received notification, the speed in which they were able to get services to people who needed them and to hunt down all of the school sites that could be impacted. And again, this community is so interwoven and so connected that you might think that a Penn High School student would have a Penn impact, but that's not true. They have a peninsula-wide impact. So our thoughts are with the family and with all those who are grieving, but our thanks are with all those who reacted so quickly and so appropriately on behalf of our students. Transitioning to proactive event that I was able to be a part of and to witness. I got to see one of our first presentations with Josh Oakes, who spoke to students at PVIS about internet safety, and not only internet safety, but the digital footprint you leave when you enter that world. And he was engaging. He was appropriate for the age of the students. The students interacted well, and there were some powerful moments. And one of those moments was when he asked a room packed with middle school students to raise their hand if they currently interacted or had accounts for, and he went through a laundry list of applications and places kids would go on the internet. And I was standing in the back of the room, and there are 90% of the hands up on almost everything he threw out. And he said things I'd never even heard of, and I thought I was pretty on top of these things. And hands up. So our kids are there. So it is our job to continue to teach kids how to interact in that world that they are already in. So good work, and it's one of the promises we had made is to start this work on digital citizenship, and it is off and running. Also had an opportunity to attend the PV Life Skills Center ribbon cutting at PVHS. Again, another example of good work being done on behalf of students, in this particular case, that have exceptional needs. And now they have another exceptional facility in place with caring adults to interact and to be part of our district. I was able to attend with Dr. Culverhouse one of our regional math nights. The particular one that I attended first was at Montemalaga Elementary School. This is just a quick thank you to the teachers district-wide who have prepared in these meetings to come in at night and to not only just be there, but the level of preparation and professionalism is a model. It's one of those things that I've called other superintendents and said, you want to see a way of doing things to tell, our story of what we're doing in classrooms by the people actually doing it. This is pretty good. The level of professionalism by our teachers, off the charts. Level of engagement by the parents and community members attending, also exceptional. Last piece before I turn this over. We have district-wide Professional Development Day coming up on the 30th, and I'm going to ask Dr. Culverhouse to talk briefly about that topic. But before I do, I want to say that what we're going to do as far as professional development on that day is powerful, and in some respects, relatively unparalleled in the amount of engagement and focus that we will have as a district that day, all the way from our youngest all the way up to our senior level teachers. So, Dr. Culverhouse.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. In the coordinated efforts of our Ed Service Department and our administrators and our teachers, we've planned a meaningful day, not just for our TK-12 teachers, but also for our school psychologists, our adaptive PE teachers, occupational therapists, special education assistants, preschool staff, paraeducators, TK classified EL support providers, and school counselors. So it's all encompassing. The goals for the day are professional learning, collaboration and articulation opportunities, and practical application for classroom implementation. Our 612 teachers will be at Penn High School. They will be exploring the first part of the day. They will be exploring the college into career ready descriptors, taking that with the SBAC claims and the new SAT redesign for 2016 and see how they overlap. Our 6th through 8th grade math teachers will be working that day, looking at our K-8 math adoption. And the powerful opportunity for our K-5 teachers as we move forward with the K-8 adoption for mathematics. Powerful opportunity because in a typical adoption, you usually begin with a couple teachers from each school, and they come together and they review the textbooks, and you get feedback from just 1 or 2 teachers. Because of this day, our K-5 teachers will have an opportunity to hear from 3 different publishers and review 4 different textbooks. Not just a handful of kindergarten teachers or 4th grade teachers or 5th grade teachers, but all K-5 teachers will have an opportunity to hear from the publishers, and then the entire rest of the day will be a chance for all of our 1st grade teachers in the district, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, to get together, to collaborate, to look at the pros and cons of each publisher and rank them in order of importance for their particular area. So we're very excited about that day. We're looking forward to a great opportunity for our teachers to get together and collaborate, and a meaningful day for our teachers and staff.
Rouse, thank you. One last thing before we get on to our presentation for the night. I'm sure it's going to be acknowledged, but as we head into tonight's STEM presentation, I want to thank the Ed Foundation for their support of STEM across the district. Our parents have wholeheartedly gotten behind STEM. It is an absolute model. It's amazing what we get to walk in and see our kids do, and we're doing things that aren't just newspaper worthy. We're doing things that are newswire worthy in this district. It is pretty neat. And tonight we're going to hear where that starts from our youngest kids and works its way up. So Dr. Culverhouse, if you can introduce our guest tonight.
You kind of stole a little bit of my thunder thanking the Ed Foundation, Dr. Austin, but with support of the Ed Foundation and the generosity and the commitment of our donors in the community, and with the full support of Roma Mystery, Andrea Sala, and Cheryl Ward, we submitted a Honda grant on behalf of the foundation, the district, and we were awarded that a grant. So with that opportunity, Mr. McDonald is our principal from Rancho Vista Elementary School, and he oversees the implementation of the program in all 10 of our elementary schools. And he's here tonight with students and teachers to share the program with you. And before Mr. McDonald comes up to the podium, I would just like for Roma and Cheryl to please stand up so we can applaud you for your support for this program. So thank you very much. Okay, you didn't stand up, but that's okay.
We all
I'd
know
also
who you
like
are.
to, we all know who you are. I'd also like to thank Mr. London, who's here from Dapplegray supporting the program, and also Mr. Keeney here from Cornerstone supporting the program, so thank you very much. And I see Dr. Park back there also. He must be doing some recruitment, because when you see these two individuals, you will be recruiting them for your school in a few years. Right, right. So at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. McDonald to please come to the podium and present our presentation for this evening.
Okay, great. We works for me.
Amazing, we have the high school student running it, of course.
Of course. Yeah. I don't know how to do that.
Neither do I.
I just pushed the button. So good evening, Board President Vanderboss, Superintendent Austin, members of the board, members of the cabinet, community members. Thank you so much for allowing us some time to talk a little bit about the elementary STEM program tonight. We've done some pretty fantastic things in the last 6 months, and it's going to be my honor to share some of those things with you tonight. We'll take a look at where we started, where we are now, and where we're going. We have the elementary STEM program at all 10 elementary sites and a lead teacher at each of those sites. Last Thursday, a week ago, we had an opportunity to get together informally and just share some stories about how things are going with the launch of the program. And I think one of the main things that came out of that was that teachers are just blown away by how engaged students are. They want to do STEM. So first thing in the morning, they sit down and say, when are we doing STEM? Can we do more STEM? Initially when we thought about launching this program, we were saying, how are we going to fit this robust STEM program into an already busy elementary schedule where there's so much going on? Is it going to work? What we're finding now is what we found is the kids want to do STEM at recess. They want to do STEM at lunch. We can't keep them away from it. The only problem we have now is how to get the teachers their time for lunch and break. So that's a good problem to have. Last week we had a student, and actually Stacy, who's going to talk tonight, shared a similar story. We had a student come to the office. His mom came to pick him up early for an appointment. He came to the office almost in tears saying, "Mom, how could you possibly do this to me? I have STEM this afternoon. We're building robots." And he managed to convince her to leave him at school. But I think when we have kids, fifth graders, pleading with their parents to be in school on a Friday afternoon, that's a good sign. So I'm proud to announce that. But what I want to do is really just get you into a classroom as soon as possible. So I have a couple of videos here, again, courtesy of Dapplegray, Stacy Dunn, that you'll be able to see what the kids are doing with the new STEM program. So if Michael can help me here, we're in good shape. Okay. What's amazing about that video is that you can see the kids really collaborating. They work together, they're communicating, they're learning, they're problem solving. They're really following this engineered design cycle where they design something, they test it, then they redesign. So the exposure at the early age to this is very impressive. Here's a video that's a little further down the line. This is actually, they've designed a robot to perform a certain task, in this case, rescue people from a nuclear waste site, so real world applications. So you can see what some of the kids are doing here.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it.
So So there's definitely creativity that comes into the design. Student personalities come into the design. It's really pretty neat to see. Even better than actually seeing the videos is hearing from two students who've been immersed in this program now for several months. We have two students here from Cornerstone Elementary, Victoria Rhodes and Eric Gressett. So if we can welcome them up to share their stories. Thank you. And they brought some friends.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Victoria, and I'm a 5th grade student at Cornerstone Elementary. STEM has been a great learning experience for me. There are many things I learned, not just in building robots, but the process of engineering and some life skills. The design process of engineering has 5 steps: ask, explore, model, evaluate, and explain. I also learned some life skills, such as working as a team to complete various tasks. In STEM, you learn how engineers build a robot to complete a dangerous task. Then you get to create a robot to complete a similar task. STEM wasn't just a learning experience, but it was a fun experience. You are either working as a team or working individually on the iPad or on the robot. I really liked that our teacher gave us a task that we had to complete, and then after we built a chassis, we got to design our own modifications as a group. STEM is a great way to learn many subjects. In STEM, you don't read out of a textbook, but you actually get to do everything. So thank you for all your support with this wonderful program.
Hi, my name is Eric Gressett, and I am a student at Cornerstone Elementary. I have learned a lot and had lots of fun during the course of the STEM program. I have learned many new skills, including the structure of a robot, the purpose of robotics, programming autonomous vehicles, and even some life skills like working with a team to solve challenges. The knowledge that we have learned so far in STEM allowed us to take 2 teams from our school and participate in the VEX Robotics Tournament held last weekend at PV High School. We competed against teams from San Diego, Dana Point, Malibu, and Chadwick. We want you to know that the majority of the 5th graders at Cornerstone wish that we could do STEM all year long. STEM is so fun because we get to work individually at your own pace and still work as part of a team. I also like it because it covers so many subjects. So far, my favorite part of STEM is the technology and engineering portion. This program has been a great learning experience. Thank you very much for your support of this program.
Thank you, students. Great job. Thanks for sharing. So in terms of why are we doing STEM at elementary, why are we bringing it down now, I think I wanted to quote one of my favorite educators, John Dewey, who's an old guy. He said in 1916, before we had any sort of technology, that education should be in its forms and methods an outgrowth of the needs of the society in which it exists. And what that means is that, right now we live in a very technology-driven digital society. And as schools, we need to adapt to that to prepare our students to live in that society. So STEM is one way we're doing that, is we're giving kids hands-on experiences that they can use in the real world, middle school, high school, and into college, and then ultimately to get a job. If you look at this chart, in the last 10 years, STEM-related jobs have tripled over the non-STEM related jobs. And in the next 10 years, they're predicting that STEM-related jobs will again double, while non-STEM related jobs will stay at the same level. In terms of the curriculum we chose, we did go with the Project Lead the Way launch curriculum, which is designed specifically for elementary. This is the first year of the launch program, so we're really on the cutting edge. We went with Project Lead the Way because it's a tried and true program we've used at middle school and high school. We've been very successful there, as you know. They provide great training to our teachers. They have great resources and great curriculum. Project Lead the Way is aligned to the Common Core standards and to the next generation science standards, which we'll be adopting in a couple of years here. So we're again, of course, in PV, we're ahead, we're on the cutting edge here. Finally, it utilizes the VEX IQ robotics kits that you saw the kids drive in for 4th and 5th grade. Same ones we use in high school and middle school. This is the gold standard in robotics. You can do an awful lot with these kits. We're just scratching the surface, so we're looking forward to developing those. In terms of the modules, we have 2 modules at 4th grade that focus on energy and collisions and conversions, so kids learning how to convert electrical energy to mechanical energy. They're building cars, they're colliding cars, they're taking slow motion movies of them and analyzing the data. In 5th grade, they're building these robot chassis. They're learning how to manipulate them in real world situations, and then ultimately there'll be a challenge where they do computer programming, program those robots to do things and challenge each other to overcome, again, real-world situations with constraints. In terms of funding launch, it's been mentioned a couple times, but we love PEF. Cheryl has been such a great support from the beginning of this. She wrote that Honda grant for $75,000. PEF was able to put in another $50,000 to do the initial funding for this program. They paid for the PLTW VEX materials, the lead teacher training, the lead teacher stipends, computers. That was through the Honda grant and direct funding, so thank you, PEF. It's truly an amazing program, and we thank you. I can't thank you enough. The school district also fully supported the program. It provided direct funding for travel for lead teachers, training, building level training, and site level training, so the district has been very generous in supporting this program as well. In terms of launch, this is the timeline we went through. The week after school got out, we got 9 teachers on an airplane. On that Monday, we flew up to Folsom, California. It was like 105 degrees all week. We had an awesome team of teachers. They drive you really hard in the training. We were up till midnight most nights, completing modules. The teachers were champs. They worked through everything. They did a great job. We did another day of training. We wanted to really shore up our knowledge. We did another day of training at Rancho Vista in September on a Saturday. Then we did a building level training at Dapple Gray in October, where our lead teachers trained other site teachers so they'd be ready. And yet more training. Before more training, we got 300 VEX robotics kits in boxes that do not come sorted or assembled. So we had an awesome community event where we invited parents from every elementary school to come to the gym at night and put together kits. We had like 60 or 70 people turn out. We played Mr. Roboto. We put together kits. We got it all done. It was a pretty special night. It was a neat thing. Final training we did at the site level, online modules for teachers, and then got the kits out in November to all elementary sites. And so the first section started in November. The curriculum has been implemented at all sites. In February, we're actually going to flip. So, for example, Rancho Vista 5th grade taught 5th grade curriculum first, and Mira Catalina taught 4th grade first. Now in February, we're going to switch. We're going to get the 4th grade kits. Mira Cat will get the 5th grade kits, and we'll teach the opposite grade level. That allowed us to save money on the kits and share the resources. In terms of the implementation and doing all this great work, like I said, we have an amazing team of teachers. 2 of the most amazing are here tonight. We have Beth Buckholtz from Cornerstone and Stacy Dunn from Dapple Gray, and they have gone above and beyond to make this work, so I want to welcome them and give them a round of applause.
Thank you for this opportunity to share about Project Lead the Way. This program has been such a wonderful addition to our already outstanding curriculum. Critical thinking, problem solving, interpersonal communication, collaboration, and creativity are all built into the Project Lead the Way program. My students had been eagerly awaiting our STEM unit, knowing we'd be learning robotics and automation. What 5th grader wouldn't just love to do that? Through Mr. McDonald's really hard work, we obtained our kits and were able to begin the program in early November. As we explored the kits, even those students not necessarily overjoyed felt excited and engaged in the learning. I think the fact that they look like super cool Legos really helped. A key factor to Project Lead the Way is that even students who would otherwise be distracted or off task are ready and eager to learn. They're either in charge of the iPad, obtaining kit components, or reading complex instructions to help their group succeed. They don't even realize how much they're learning. Every lesson requires a combination of 21st century learner skills and abilities. Students complete several preliminary activities that teach them the content and background. They then complete a project to synthesize the learning. For instance, we built group-designed robots. Finally, they're given a real-world problem to solve. 5th graders must design and build a robot prototype to clean up the nuclear disaster sites that you saw. The creativity really soared as they eagerly engaged in this scenario. It was a switch for me as a teacher to give up control of my class and invest the hours needed for the program. I struggled with justifying the trade-off from my other teaching. But after watching the students engage so fully for the entire period and rely on one another and themselves to solve problems and learn, I'm thankful this is part of our curriculum. I'm looking forward to continuing to develop my expertise with teaching and integrating STEM in my classroom, and I thank you for your continued support of this program.
And I'm Stacy Dunn, and I teach a 4-5 combo at Dapple Gray. And my class didn't start the robotics unit until after we returned from winter break. So I've been doing it for the last 3 weeks, but we've invested a lot of time every day and kind of put ourselves into it so they could delve into each activity with extended time. We've probably spent close to 20 hours over the last 3 weeks working on it and should finish up the first module either tomorrow or the beginning of next week, and the students are already looking forward to the programming and automating of their vehicle over the next several weeks. I myself am looking forward to learning from them as we go, because they are already going to know more than I am when I get there. So as Beth stated, all students have been actively engaged the entire time that they're working on the modules. I know that they're having fun with this because that is the first question I get every morning, and it's repeated several times throughout the morning, is what time are we going to do STEM today? And the students are not only having fun, they are researching, planning and giving presentations, learning to work cooperatively, and exploring using creativity in the design process. And although the initial preparation required by me as the teacher was time extensive, intensive, the involvement and interest that I've seen from the students has me looking forward to more modules. And one lesson, once the lessons get going, the students really drive their own instruction. Because I have both 4th and 5th graders this year, I plan to take the students through the energy, collision, and conversion modules as well. And after seeing the enthusiasm from my students, I know that I'm going to have a hard time waiting until the spring when we have the 4th grade kids to get started on that one. They already are talking about, when are we going to do the next one? So I know they're excited about that. And your support as we continue to ignite students' interests through this program is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you again to our teachers, doing a marvelous job. Next steps for this year in 2015-16, we're going to continue to develop a capacity with the 4th and 5th grade modules. So again, this year we're teaching 4th and 5th. Next year we're going to deepen that practice. We're working with PF to secure funding through the Honda grant and direct funding for next year. The cost will be much lower in terms of the initial startup being over, which is great. We're going to utilize the VEX IQ robotics kits to compete, hopefully, in countywide challenges. Eric mentioned that at PV High School there was a VEX competition. I got to go for the first time. It's pretty amazing. I highly recommend it. It's an intense environment, lots of kids, some amazing building, creativity. So I'd like to see all 10 of our elementary schools engaging in those competitions this time next year. And then, of course, collaborating with the middle school and high school to create a comprehensive program in STEM for PVPUSD. Dr. Austin mentioned that we have an amazing STEM program. I'm completely blown away by it every time I go to those schools, and to have that going from elementary to high school really makes it a world-class program for our district, and something that is a huge feather in our cap. So again, we thank you, we appreciate it, thanks for listening.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like for Eric and Victoria to go back up to the podium, and please introduce your parents who brought you to our rehearsal on Tuesday. And so if you, Eric, would you go first, please, and introduce your parents?
This is my mom right there, and she brought me for the rehearsal, and my dad is sitting next to her, and they have both supported and listened to me talk after the day is over, and explain what we did in STEM, and my enthusiasm shows that the STEM is a well-rounded, supported program.
That was an ad lib. Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate that. And Victoria? Victoria, would you stand up and introduce your parents, please?
This is my mom and my dad, and my brother is sitting next to my mom.
Thank you. I would just like to thank our teachers and Mr. McDonald and the support for our program. Michael, thank you for being the worker of the electronics, and staff, and board members, if you have any comments or questions.
I just want to say I think it's a fabulous program. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And the thing that's so great about it is you're starting with robotics and engineering at a very young age, and by doing that, you're going to take the fear out of engineering. Sometimes, you know, when the kids grow up a little bit and they get older, they're afraid to take those engineering classes because they weren't exposed to it earlier. And it's just fabulous because the opportunities out there are just endless for students who go into engineering, and STEM's just a great way to do it, and it seems like an awful lot of fun. I wish they'd had that around when I was in school.
Yeah, I would just add in terms of we have a long history of a phenomenal high school science fair, for lack of a better term, that we have each year, and we have high school students kind of doing PhD level research and analysis and sharing it out. I would really be excited about, I don't know whether it's a maker's fair, I don't know whether it's a symposium. While I would love to see some of the 4th and 5th graders taking on the high school students at their robotics competitions, I think we could lead the way, no pun intended here, in terms of districts and counties across California showing what an elementary level symposium and invite other folks around the state to come that we could host. So I realize that adds a lot more work and costs a lot more money, but I think that would be an amazing opportunity. Great. Perfect. My only other recommendation, I've received a lot of questions about this program and the fact that we're trying to implement it district-wide at the elementary level from other districts and other teachers off the Hill. I don't know if you are comfortable posting the PowerPoint, but I think you get a lot of traffic and a lot of people want to see what it looks like when it's actually been rolled out. So I would encourage us to post that. Great job.
Over the, actually it was after the holiday, it was a function of the computer electronics fair that's held in Las Vegas each year. So I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. And I was looking at some of the technology that's going to land in our family rooms and living rooms and what have you, kitchens, smart refrigerators. I guess it'll lock the door on me after 9 o'clock. But I was talking to a friend of mine as a function of this, and I ended up tweeting what he had told me about that. I guess it was a couple of months ago. They needed a certain wrench on the International Space Station to fix a component, and so what they did was emailed them the wrench. And of course, what they emailed was the programming for the 3D printer that is up on the space station. And I believe when I tweeted that, I think Bill and maybe Charles, I think I included a lot of people. I said, you know, this is some really cool stuff that they're doing, and, you know, our kids are being exposed to STEM. And I got a little feedback to say, well, you know, maybe we don't have the technology here in our school. I forget which guardian angel just swooped right in and said, well, thanks to the Ed Foundation, like, what, we have the same 3D printers that are on the space shuttle at like all of our intermediate schools. So what these kids are being exposed to being able to email you a wrench, I mean, George Jetson would be so proud of what's going on. I have a bunch of friends, and you may see their hobby now and then. Actually, tomorrow's Friday. They are the Tiger Squadron. I don't know if you are familiar with the Tiger Squadron. These are the guys down at, actually one of your Rancho Vista parents is a member of the squadron. They fly a Namchung, which is a Chinese fighter. They do a lot of formation flying. They go out to Camarillo on Fridays, but they do it around. I was at a holiday party talking to one of these, and one of your parents just, you know, had everybody floored down there at the Torrance Airport. And a lot of times when you get those guys at the Torrance Airport, a guy like I walk in, I drop the average age down to about 75. These guys have such a wonderful attitude toward what we're doing up here because so many of them, you know, career Air Force or TRW or something like that. And it's not, and it is the collaboration, the cooperation, and the creativity that is kind of, in their mind, overshadowing the engineering that they're learning. Because maybe all these kids aren't going to want to be engineers, but they're going to be managing some work group doing who knows what in the future. So I commend you, Bill, for all the work you've done. Thank you, Cheryl, and the Ed Foundation, and it's great.
Hi, I just wanted to say that what I really love about this elementary program is that everybody does it, right? So STEM is an elective in middle school and high school, and so as someone who is a girl sitting with a lot of smelly boys in all my high school math and science classes, hopefully the girls like Victoria who are exposed to this in elementary school won't be afraid to take the STEM electives in middle school, because there are girls that take it. I think my son's grade, there's a handful, but there can always be more, and I'd love to see that end up being a 50-50 ratio, so you're on the right track there. So Victoria, I'm going to be checking to see what you do in middle school, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Do you need
All right, Michael, you're up.
Okay, so last time I was here, we were talking about, or I was talking about Grinchmas, and we were just gearing up for that, and we actually had it the Thursday before break, and it was a lot of work for ASB. I'm on ASB. We were at the school until like 12:30 both nights, setting up and taking down. But it was just a really cool event. A lot of people said it felt like a small town feel to it, with all the little kids running around and then the older students, the high school students, and it was just really cool. And having snow on campus was very exciting for everyone. We had 45 tons of snow. That's what we ended up with. Originally, we planned for 15, then we upped it to 25, and then we upped it to 45. So the side by the library at Peninsula was just completely covered with snow, and there were places to sled, and it was just a lot of fun. There was also a coffee house there, so it was a chance for students to perform if they have musical interests or they sing, and it was just a great program or event we had, and we are planning to do it next year. We'll see how that goes, because it was a lot of work, but it was so worth it in the end, and hearing how much everyone loved it, we just have to do it again. After that, we went straight into break, and break obviously is every student's favorite part of the year. It was just really fun for me. My brothers come home from college, and I know a lot of students, a lot of my friends, as they've gotten older, their brothers or siblings are in college, and it's just fun to spend time with your family. One thing I've heard a lot from a lot of students is that they wish finals could be before break, because it's a little stressful sometimes for us to want to relax and just watch TV and do nothing, but then realize that we should be studying. And even though no studying's going to get done, that feeling that we have stuff to do is a little stressful at times. So that's something I hope to see changed in the future, potentially. Right after we come back, we have a week of classes, and then we went straight into finals. Finals is always a very stressful time at Peninsula, and I'm sure every high school. It's very nice that we have a half day during finals, so we have chances to study. But as soon as finals were done, everyone was just so relieved, and it was really nice to see that even when it becomes tempting to maybe cheat or plagiarize or whatever it may be, that everyone holds their integrity, even though there's so much pressure from parents and just everyone to achieve, and I think that's the coolest part. A new semester started this week, and everyone's happy that the slate is wiped clean and they just have a fresh start. And today was our open house. Actually, I came straight from our open house for our 8th graders to see which school they want to attend. And even when I left, it was about 6 o'clock, and it started at 5:45, and it was just packed with people. And we have all our leadership groups put, if you need help, and then on the back it says Ask Me shirt, and they go around and they help lost or confused parents, or parents that just might have a question about...
There's none of those, come on.
about what their child should do for their freshman year. Today we were given the sad news of one of all of our friends passing away. He was a good friend of mine, his older brother, my oldest brother's best friend, and he would actually come on a trip to Mexico with a couple of families, including my family, every year. And it was very shocking for all the students, and you could just instantly walk out, and lunch just wasn't the same as students started finding out about the news. And I think it's horrible, and I know he's in a better place now, and it's just going to be time for all of us to heal and get over this. But like Dr. Austin said, I think it was really cool how immediately when we were told of the information, they said they completely understood. If you need time to just walk or just take it all in, or if you need to go see a counselor, or if you need help, or anything you may need, it was just offered to us. And I think that was the coolest part about it. And yeah, that's all I have.
Sorry for your loss. You had the one comment earlier about the split semesters, and it is something we've looked at before. The challenge is that you have 80 days of the school year before the break and 100 days after, so you'd have to tailor something different, and that's something that administration, I'm sure, has talked about with the faculty, because the faculty and the administration negotiate the calendar. So I'm sure John is taking your input. Thank you. Now we're moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Barry Udis.
Evening. Let's talk about the epic fail of PVPUSD's 2-year Common Core implementation. Here's a short list of milestone failures. A 5th grade math test created by Director of Curriculum Joan Romano that has put thousands of children's future in math at risk. No math textbook, instead a binder of mishmash math exercises that include Georgia math compiled by Joan Romano. A new math test that is supposed to be administered in February that has not been created. Now let's talk about the performance metrics that were provided by the school districts. This performance metric is a blank report card for thousands of K through 5 students. The school district has failed to deliver performance metrics in the form of a blank report card that directly measures the results of their failed implementation of the Common Core curriculum. There is a letter admitting failure signed by Assistant Superintendent Joanne Culverhouse. Culverhouse states the reason for sending parents a report card with no grades is because this is a transition of elementary curriculum to match Common Core standards. Culverhouse's words translate to not only have we failed to figure out how to grade Common Core during this grading period, but we are so clueless that it's going to take the entire year. Then we will scramble over the summer to throw something together. The reasoning is that completing the new reporting tool will take the entire school year because they are involving teachers, administrators, and parents to create a meaningful, understandable, and useful document. Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if Professor Kaladas did not give his Pepperdine students a grade, that would be a problem. Doesn't Professor Kaladas have his curriculum and lessons plan figured out before he starts class so he can give students grades and progress updates? And what if board member Vandenbos did not have reporting metrics in place for his food service business? What if he created a new product and after 2 years he could not measure quality, sales, or market share of this product? Would that be an issue? By all measures, you are failing and we are not receiving a return on our tax-paid dollars. You've spent millions of taxpayer dollars and hired numerous administrators, resulting in no performance indicators. While you continue your botched Common Core implementation, Co-Superintendent Austin is writing educational insights about happy maps and inefficiency. At least he practices what he preaches. Isn't 2 years enough time to say we need to go in a different direction? This is not working. Why do you continue to waste our children's time by implementing the Common Core curriculum, which is nothing but hot air with no research, facts, or pilot studies to base it on? This is why you can't report on it, because you are implementing something unproven that you don't understand. I was watching the Ridgecrest versus Miralles boys basketball game on Tuesday, and I thought, thank God no one is offering the school district money to change how to teach basketball. Because if some really smart guys came in showed some really neat videos on how to get money for changing the teaching of basketball, this board would do it. Why don't we press the reset button? Start again from a point where we know results will be successful. Let's get parents and teachers involved this time around instead of the deceptive one-way communication of the past. Let's open up a positive communication channel towards the goal of what's best for all our children.
Thank you. Joan Davidson.
The kids who came here tonight were great, and that's why I'm here. Communication. Community members, teachers, parents have a right to know about the things that are being stated at local school meetings. Only a handful attend, and I attended one of them a week ago. Things such as pilot programs are going to be implemented at elementary schools. What is that? Who's going to be chosen? What does it mean? Does that mean increased testing? In February, a math test is going to be given to every fifth grader. Who's writing this test? Is it computer adaptive like Smart or Balanced? A formula for to get into accelerated math was told to be 90% plus teacher recommendation. Waivers can be written by parents, but do the kids have to have an A to stay in that class? No details. Are you informing parents that without 8th grade algebra you can't make it to calculus by 12th grade? It will take an enormous effort for a child not taking 8th grade algebra to get to calculus. The district is adopting new textbooks. Will they choose the ones that are being protested in New York, Ohio, Colorado, South Carolina, etc.? Please don't do that. And why is the district showing a video by Raj Shah promoting Common Core math? He's a physicist, but he's a businessman. He owns the Math Plus Academy. It's funded by venture capitalists like Goldman Sachs. Look it up. I looked it up. He's not an educator, and so he should not be telling us how to teach math. And why are you telling parents that children are not prepared to take Algebra 1 in 8th grade? Research educators from Stanford to Harvard totally disagree with that. What's happening around the nation with Common Core? The testing consortia at PARC only has 10 states left. Everyone else has bailed out. Congressman Gibson and Congresswoman Sinema are sponsoring legislation in the United States Congress to banish federal tests for kids. New Hampshire, North Dakota, Arkansas, Wyoming, Ohio, and now New Mexico all have bills to get rid of Common Core. And the following states have dumped all these testing consortia: Ohio, Mississippi, Arizona, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Florida, Alaska, Utah, Iowa, North Carolina, and Michigan are all out. Why are we writing multi-million-dollar checks in California at this board table? Last year, 65,000 students in New York State opted out of the testing. December 27th, the New York Times had an editorial opinion page that was great. I'm quoting. Had the public schools been given breathing room with a moratorium on high-stakes testing that prominent educators urged, resistance to Common Core would most likely have been less fierce. But in the states where the opposition is passionate and powerful, it will take a Herculean effort to get the standards back on track. Please learn from history. You're digging us into a hole for multi-million dollars checks that we will have to dig out of, just like New York and all the other states. Just stop.
Thank you. Kathy Santa Rosa.
Hi, my name is Kathy Santarosa. I'm the president of the Palos Verdes Faculty Association, also a teacher here in the district. And I wanted to thank our wonderful math teachers that we have in our district, the nights they have put on, the effort that they have gone through of their own personal time to come out at night to help explain to the parents what is going on. I cannot urge parents enough. Stop reading, go and talk to the teachers who are implementing programs in our district. These are the people that have knowledge of the everyday implementation of the math program. I sat at lunch with our math teachers at Asst. I said, give me a little overview of math. I've heard so much about it. They said they cannot believe the rigor in this program is so much more increased than what they were doing that they cannot wait to go to full implementation of it. So I think that we have phenomenal math people here, and they understand, and they have a lot of input to the district. At the meetings they go to, there's a lot of talk. They really are invested in it, and I think it's great, and I am so proud of our teachers and what they have shared with the community. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. Sandy Valeri.
Good evening. Since the start of the year, a group of concerned parents have repeatedly spoken to this board about the revised math pathways, but this district has refused to hear us or respond to a concern. Once upon a time, all of 1 or 2 years ago, approximately 85% of our students took algebra in the 8th grade, and then 65% of them went on to take calculus or advanced statistics in high school. Then last year, a change was made, and a test was given to 5th graders that only 1% of our students were able to pass, and only that 1% was considered worthy to take algebra in the 8th grade and was put on a special track to do so. And all the rest were supposed to go on to take some other special Common Core math class in the 8th grade. And then according to the math pathways that were published and handed out in September, only that specialized 1% class would have any chance to be able to take calculus, and all the rest of the 99% would have ended up taking MCR, algebra, and geometry in high school. And let's not mince words. We know that MCR stands for meets college requirements, but what it really is remedial level math. So 1% would be considered advanced, and the other 99% would be considered remedial. Now a new test is being developed to give to the 9th graders in February this year to determine what their fate is and how many might pass this time. What is this test? Has it been field tested or benchmarked? But most important, why? Why do we want to restrict algebra to only the most top accelerated students? Why only 1% or 10% or even 20%? Why is algebra only for the accelerated students now? My son got A's in 6th and 7th regular math, and then he went on to take algebra. If it was this year, thank God it was last year. If it was this year, he would have been considered slow, and he would have been put into some specialized 8th grade class, and then he would be now in 9th grade remedial math, remedial MCR algebra. Instead, he went on and he took algebra and got an A in it, and he now just got his first A in geometry, and tonight he's at Penn, after earning his first A in geometry, and he's with the robotics team introducing new students tonight at their open house. That's a success story. He's the last of his kind, because if you're not accelerated, you can have no chance, and his dream of taking calculus and getting to an engineering school would be dead. So I want to know why. Why are you deliberately delaying algebra and deliberately limiting the options and opportunities for the vast majority of our students? And also, what does the delay of algebra do to our science program? As of this year, algebra was a prerequisite for all of the college prep science classes. You couldn't take biology if you didn't have algebra. So what science classes do you take in 9th grade if you don't have algebra in 8th grade? And have the science teachers reviewed the new math textbooks? Have they looked at them? Have they reviewed them? I don't know who it is at PV High, but at Penn, have Stardub and Lee reviewed the context, actually reviewed the data and the lessons and said, these new algebras, because I understand that that's harder in some ways, but I also understand that they don't teach the same algorithms and they don't put the same emphasis on solving equations.
Thanks, Mrs.
So Those teachers are hard.
Next item is M1, ratification of subscription to the border. We do have one speaker, but I think we'll do the presentation first, and then the speaker can speak.
Okay, this is, the district uses internet content filtering solutions so that students and staff are protected from accessing inappropriate websites, content such as pornography and explicit material. There are guidelines, the Children's Internet Protection Act, that the district and school districts are required to adhere to. And one of the things that we're finding is that as there's more digital content out there for students, it's challenging to provide access to instructional material, but also we want to continue to limit questionable material. The way our network is set up is that we've had a device that has done both our firewall services and our content filtering. The staff believes that as the changes with websites, with the technology, even some of the Google searches, the secure searches that students are now having to do, we are recommending that we go with a new content filter from a company called Borderland Security, and the solution is called iBoss. What we are bringing to you tonight for ratification is a subscription with Borderland Security. It is a 3-year subscription for the content filtering. The reason it's a ratification is that Borderland, many technology companies provide promotional pricing at the end of the calendar year, December. They offered 4 years for the price of 3, which would essentially save the district $12,000 for that subscription. So what we're bringing to you tonight is a ratification of the subscription costs so that we can continue to provide content filtering services and be able to protect our students and staff from inappropriate material, but also provide a more seamless access to instructional resources.
Joan Davidson.
I just want to add to our student member, I'm so sorry about your loss of your friend. I'm really sorry. I just wanted to ask a question because on M1, it's a ratification of a subscription, but there's no contractual agreement, at least for the general public like myself. So you're ratifying something. I hope that you had that in your packet because there's no agreement, at least on this agenda, for the public. On item M2, there is something, and on M3, but I'm asking the board to please amend it with one sentence that prohibits staff, third parties from tracking individual students' data unless under a court order. Because one of the things that is driving parents crazy across the United States with Common Core is all of the online issues and all of the hacking and all the stuff that's going on and releasing of personally identifiable information of students. So I'm asking you if you really care about kids' privacy and students' privacy and personally identifiable information to add an amendment to prohibit staff and third parties from tracking individual students unless under a court order. Thank you.
Actually, can I ask you a question?
Why wouldn't you have staff track?
To what topic are you asking that, are you suggesting that you
Well,
have?
You have 3 agreements, and
Right, and you're
basically,
speaking to M1, but.
I'm talking to M1,
Okay, so in M1, you're suggesting that we have
an amendment to protect kids.
an amendment in the resolution approving the agreement?
Yeah, because there is no agreement. That's the problem. That's what I was trying to explain. I don't have the agreement, and I don't know if you have it tonight yourself. Trent probably has it. But you do.
I appreciate it. I just didn't understand what you're.
Yeah, I just don't know how else to explain it. Thank you.
Okay.
Larry, M1 is a subscription, it's not an agreement.
So the access to find out what the terms of subscription are available on the website for Borderland Network Security?
Yeah, I can get that information for it. Basically, Lydia's right. It's not an agreement. It's a subscription for content filtering, so that what they provide to us is basically what this company, what filtering companies do is they will categorize websites. So, for example, if a new website pops up, they'll categorize it as advertising, pornography, adult material, gaming. The subscription service to a company like that will, when our traffic goes through the filter, it will help block anything that's questionable. It also allows us to customize the traffic in terms of if we want to allow something, for example, if we wanted to block all streaming media, we have the ability to say, well, there's certain content that is instructional based. For example, there may be videos for STEM classes, engineering classes. That's the purpose of what the content filter does, but it also is a subscription to have that information categorized, because as you know, there's so much material out there that comes up daily that we have to rely on a service like this to categorize and subscribe to it. This is also a requirement for all federal funding, E-rate funding, a lot of state funding, that you must be what they call SIPA compliant, which is the Children's Internet Protection Act. You also must have filtering in place to receive funding from the federal government.
Trent, with the point of something like IBOS or any sort of filter that is trying to prevent students from accessing inappropriate sites through the district or while on campus, the whole point is to track students, right? The whole point is for the district to be able to make sure who is doing what at any time. So I do think it would be an interesting conversation for us to have as a board, and maybe in the technology subcommittee, about is there some sort of language we might want to include in future agreements that does acknowledge that we want to do everything possible to protect the privacy of our students. On the same hand, it seems as though as a district, of course we want to be able to access and track what our students are up to. So I actually want to acknowledge the speaker, because I think there's some real validity to making sure that we are doing what we can, and maybe even publicly state that in some of our agreements when possible. I also want to acknowledge that we're a district and we deal with minors, and our number one goal is to protect them, and part of protecting sometimes means we actually also need to know what they're up to when they're on our networks and working with our systems.
So typically a subscription agreement will have terms you have to agree to somewhere. I mean, when you sign it. So if the board is concerned and wants to look at the terms of the subscription agreement before ratifying or addressing this agenda item, we can do that and bring it to another, a later meeting.
Okay.
And then we can ask technology to provide the terms, but the subscription agreements are not negotiable. You either say yes or you don't get the subscription. And I think the speaker's comment, Joan's comment about the privacy, is probably best addressed in our policies, because I don't think we have the ability to negotiate with the content provider to address what Joan is asking us to address, but we should, our own internal policies should be doing exactly what she's suggesting. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we are going to have a policy update on some of these materials in the not too distant future. So that might be the better place to address that, because I don't think we can do it with the subscription agreement. But if the board wants to read the subscription agreement before ratifying this, we can certainly do that. Anybody want to delay it or wait for any reason?
Well, let's say we didn't like the terms. Are there other companies out there, or is this kind of the best that there is? And
yeah, there are a variety of companies that provide filtering services to primarily to schools and libraries. There are, it's pretty, I think, standard in terms of what Larry had pointed out in terms of subscriptions for that. The IBOS is one of the best that's geared specifically towards education. It allows dealing with some of the issues that many school districts struggle with is, how do you protect but also not lock things down so much that kids can't learn and get access to instructional materials? And we've had those conversations with many of our instructional teachers, staff, that would like to have content available to them. And it's always a very slippery slope in terms of what one person views as appropriate and another person doesn't. Or, I think there's always been a fear that, people are going to do things that they shouldn't be on the internet. And I think it goes back to our conversation about digital citizenship and responsibility. So going back to your question, there are other companies that provide services. We've researched, we feel that this is the best one for the needs of our district. We have always operated on a very conservative side of, I think, content in this district. I think many of the teachers and instructional staff will agree with that. And we feel like this is a best solution for our district as we continue to move forward with things like STEM and streaming media and all those resources, that everything now is at children's and teachers' fingertips online. So.
Barry Udis?
Yeah, this is an important issue, and Council, Board Member Van Voss, I think you've nailed it. It's irrelevant whether it's a subscription service or a licensing service or whatever, or if you're doing a deal with GoToMeeting or whatever the website is. They all have T's and C's, and they all have privacy statements. And yes, you can negotiate with these companies. It's not set in stone. And so that would be very important, excuse me, to talk to them and get that straightened out. These companies are a dime a dozen, essentially. And all they are doing, it's like on Internet Explorer, and you're blocking certain websites, and you're whitelisting and blacklisting websites. That's all it is. That's all Content Blocker is. And so what we need to do is take control of this and tell that vendor what you want, what you're trying to protect the kids, and get that spelled out, and not just sign a deal. I mean, you got to sign it before you know what's in it. Let's not do that. Okay, we know where that gets us. When you blindly signed a contract and you're not looking at the privacy statement and the T's and C's, that gets everyone in trouble. And the last thing we need is you sign the deal, and then all of a sudden our kids' information is going to this company and they're marketing it out on the internet. So slow down. Thanks.
Okay. It is now after January 1st, 2015, so what has taken effect is Senate Bill 1177 that was passed, signed by the governor September 29th, 2014. So all these things you're talking about that we need to do diligence on, since the state of California is doing that for us, we now have a law, and I'm reading from the law, that prohibits an operator of an internet website, online service from knowingly using, disclosing, compiling, or allowing a third party to use, disclose, compile the personal information of a minor for the purpose of marketing or advertising specified types of products or services. So this whole discussion about things that we need to do, it's a done deal. It's now 2015. We have a new law. It's the strictest law in the country. You can shake your head, but you're wrong. You keep on coming up and telling us about what's happening in Wisconsin, and I'm talking. We have members of the public come up and tell us about what's happening in every state of the union but the state that you're sitting in. Check your driver's license. We have the strictest internet privacy law protecting minors in the United States as of January 1st, 2015. So Trent, I would say you go with this company. They're operating in California under California law. You don't have to waste your time and your staff's time to try to figure out whether this company is operating under the proper laws of the state. It's just a waste of your time. This service is an admirable service. When I got the agenda and we talked before the meeting, I just did a web search on what it is you get when you sign on to them, and I'm perfectly comfortable, and I don't think we need to waste any more time with it.
Is there anybody else have any comments? Okay. Then you had There is a suggested action. Someone want to make a motion?
I move approval, ratification of subscription with Borderland Network Security for the iBoss web filter solution.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, M2.
Okay, this is a resolution that has been reviewed by our attorneys. Hugh Lee has helped create the resolution for us. And basically, the district participates in the E-rate program, which is a federally funded program to provide discounts to schools and libraries for technology services and equipment. It's based on a school's the school's level of student participation in the National School Lunch Program. That's how the percentage of discounts is formulated. Part of the program is that schools and libraries must go out to bid for any services that they are seeking. So what this resolution is for is that so that we can go out to bid for services that qualify under E-rate, and that we can consider additional factors such as vendor financing, performance reliability, standardization of products, and other items, rather than just price only. So what this resolution does is it allows us to, according to Public Contract Code 20118.2, to take into consideration other variables when we select a vendor for the E-rate program, or multiple vendors. Okay. The thing to remember is that we do not have to, if we get approved, we are not bound to participate in the program. So if we decide we don't have, for example, some schools will get an 80% discount because of the participation free and reduced, we fall in about the 37%. We traditionally get discounts on our phone services, our internet service. The program is changing a little bit. They're now focusing on wireless infrastructure. They will slowly be phasing out basic telephone services in a few years. But what would happen is if a district qualifies under a certain percentage, they get a 40% discount, 80% discount, and they pay the balance based on the vendor that's selected for the services that were bid. It's very structured in terms of how the program operates. This resolution allows us to consider, when we look at vendors through the bid packages they present, that it's not just lowest price only. So that's what this is for.
And that's actually increasingly common in all sorts of purchasing decisions in school, the same in food services.
I have a question. At some point, okay, so you go out to bid. Then do you come back to the board and get approval for the purchase, or is this like an open purchase?
No, we would have to, what would happen is the program set up that there's a 28-day window that we say, these are the items that we would like to get proposals for. At the end of the 28 days, we open them and we decide if we would like to select that vendor. Then what we would do is we would come back to the Board of Education and say, these are the vendors that we are recommending to select and to pursue this program. Most of the time, we are, because of the where we fall in the percentage, it's only been for services. We've never really been able to procure any items, things like servers or network gear, because we don't qualify at that level. It's mostly been for internet service, which we need every year, or telephone service, which we need. And we've never really been one of those districts that's been able to qualify for network gear or infrastructure. So, but we would come back to you at the time and say, this is who we have selected, and get recommendation to proceed with the program.
So is there a budget in place for the types of services that you anticipate we might need?
The services that, the only ones we traditionally qualify for is internet service, which we already are paying for, budgeted, telephone service, The only thing that we are hoping that would be different this year is possibly some funding for wireless infrastructure, so wireless access points, controllers, things like that. There's discussion about whether the large districts in California, the LA Unifieds, the Long Beaches, are going to, so to speak, gobble up the money first. Most experts think that the higher funded districts will get the largest piece of the pie, but they do believe it's a wise move for us to participate and see that there's a chance we could get some money, maybe not in this year, possibly in the second year or third year. So that's what we're hoping for.
Anybody have any other questions or discussion? Okay, so there is a resolution, recommendation,
I move approval.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. M3.
Okay, this is another resolution to use a bid, it's a piggyback bid from Bakersfield School District. And what we're trying to do with this resolution is that we have a technology baseline standards in the district for classroom technology. And over time, those fluctuate where technology may get older, it may need to be replaced. We still have some work to do with getting some of our classrooms to a higher standard of baseline. The way we procure equipment is that the county has bid limits on the amount of equipment you can purchase. For example, I think it's $84,000 or in that range for equipment. Anything that purchase over that amount, the county will come back to us and say, do you have a bid for that? If you don't have a bid for it, you must bid that type of equipment. What this allows us to do is, this is for classroom digital projection systems. And it's a variety of projectors, smart boards, different types of equipment that if we needed to purchase equipment for classrooms and it exceeds $84,000, the bid limit, that we could use this as a purchasing vehicle. Now, one thing we have to remember is it's not just one purchase. So if a school or the district spends $10,000 and another school spends $50,000, they take the cumulative amount and say, that's your threshold. You don't get to say, well, I can have 10 purchases of $70,000, I'm okay. As soon as you hit, if it's like purchases, then that becomes problematic. From the county will come back to us and say, we won't approve that purchase because you've exceeded the bid limit. This resolution allows us to use an already identified bid that is done. It's been reviewed by the attorneys. So if we want to purchase equipment and we get to a point where we're over it exceeds a threshold, we are okay by using this bid because it's already been vetted and approved.
Barbara, do you have the same question?
Yeah, I read it, and of course, not getting all this information, I was looking at it, and we get down to financial impact, and we've got sources of funds, but no total for money, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's
a
great question, because, and here's an example. So, for example, a school has said, we've done a fundraiser, an elementary school, and one of the things is it's a technology fundraiser that they've notified me of what types of things they want and their PTA, and it may be a $30,000 purchase. Okay, so if I take that and I also spend $10,000, even if it was for new construction classrooms. Let's say I'm going to spend $25,000 at Peninsula High School in their new classrooms. As soon as if I hit that limit,
84,000.
Yeah, I think is that correct, Lydia? It's somewhere in that range. As soon as I go over that, they won't let me purchase that from that vendor. Now I'm going to start picking multiple vendors and getting different contractors, different people to get returns on, replacements. It's not that I'm going to go out and spend a specific amount or we have it already earmarked. It's in the event that we need to purchase. We did this similar with the Chromebooks, because if we knew that there might be a chance that some schools would want to purchase Chromebooks with their own site and dollars. But if the district as a whole went over that amount, we'd have to select multiple vendors. This allows us to use the same vendor to get installations, service calls, returns, repairs, and all those things. So it's not that we're going to go out and spend it. We're setting this into place so that if we need to purchase, we have the ability as a.
Is there a reason why we picked Bakersfield City School District and their particular bid? Did they get a?
We've been working with the vendor IVS, and they have a bid already set up with Bakersfield. So a lot of times in the past, you'd see Glendale was very a big player in setting up bids with vendors with their purchasing department that many districts in the county would piggyback off of. So it just happens that they had their board went through, they did the process, they vetted it and all that, and that's kind of how the process with the piggyback
Okay, so if we piggyback and you decide you fit your 84,000 limit or whatever the limit is, then do you bring it back to the board for the approval of the purchase of the equipment, service, whatever it is?
Yeah, any large purchase or any purchase that would be made would go on our purchase order report. If there's anything exceptionally large, we would work with Lydia's department to bring that to.
If it goes on the purchase order, we're not going to see it.
But that is typically how all the purchases are done, is that we will purchase to a budget. We'll purchase, and if we're going over the budget.
Well, that's the next question, is the purchase to a budget. Is there a budget in place, you know?
There's, for example, the funding sources that would be used for these types of purchases would be parcel tax, general fund, site funds, Common Core funds, those types of things.
I know the general fund can be used for any purpose.
Right.
There's no budget to it, unless it's been specifically allocated in the budget. I
Well,
guess.
right, and so if there was something that was going to go over the budget, presumably
right,
we would hear about that, and before they were going to make a budget adjustment rather than after the fact that, oh, we bought $100,000 more stuff than we intended to.
The only time you're going to see the budget adjustment is, let's say, it's PTA funded and underfunded, and so we're accepting those funds as a donation, then we're going to be doing a budget revision to increase the budget for those dollars that are going to be earmarked for these specific purchases.
Isn't the issue here, Barb, I mean, help me out if I'm not mishearing you, that we want to know that you're not getting a credit card to go charge a bunch of technology on whatever you want with this fancy system you got here. Isn't that really what so let's just cut to the chase here.
Yeah.
So
for example, parcel tax. If we were to fund out a parcel tax, you've already allocated a budget for me for parcel tax. Lydia we work and say, this is our running count, what do we have? If I come to her and I said, hey, Lydia, I have a $45,000 budget purchase, she's going to look at me and say, that doesn't pass budget checked, right? You don't have enough money in that account. That's at that point, we would have to come back to you and say, this is something we would really need, and we would ask for a budget. We're not near any of those thresholds, so that's how, there are the checks and balances that you're asking for.
And this actually is how school food service works for most things. Not ours, but most schools are members of a...
Of course not ours.
Not ours. But most schools are a member of a co-op. Right. And so the co-op, one district, in the case, the largest one is Santa Clarita Valley School Food Service Authority, does all the vetting, does all the contract and everything, and then everybody who signs up that gets to take advantage of the pricing that's awarded as part of that contract. But they have no obligation to purchase anything, and they're not going to purchase more than ever they budgeted or whatever else.
But as we sit here at the board table, and because we're in the age of technology, we keep buying more technology. Right. We need more infrastructure, we need more software. And so at the board table, we don't see a running tab, we don't see a budget, we just see individual types of equipment and services that you wish us to okay. And so my only question is, basically, somewhere in the budget, there must be some sort of line allocations that say, yeah, so then, you say, okay, you can buy X amount, but, you're going over budget now. Then you need to come back and talk to us and say, we need it for 10 classrooms, we've only got enough money for 4, That's what I'm looking for. And we really haven't had those types of conversations, and that's why I'm just in my mind starting to add up all these different types of technology, and I'm wondering, well, this kind of looked like an open-ended purchase order?
No, this is just, it's a good question because it's only that gives you ability to, it's a purchasing tool is what it is, the vehicle to purchase equipment from this vendor. And like you pointed out, we could not do anything if there's not a budgeted amount to make the purchase, regardless of whatever tool we used. If we went through this bid or we went out and said, I'm going to spend $15,000, and Lydia said, sorry, Trent, you only have $5,000.
Okay, so I'm not questioning the need, I'm just questioning the tracking of the cost.
And the reason this is coming before you is that we, excuse me, we had the conversation that we've been using this vendor this year, and we're starting to get close to that threshold. So either stop using this vendor because the county at some point is going to say, hey, wait a second, you might not have purchased these all on the same day, but they are the same type of items. Therefore, you're going to exceed the bid limit. And so that's when we started to look to see, is there a piggyback bid already in existence that we can tap into?
We do have two speakers. I thought I was instructed to go through that first so that everyone had a sort of an understanding of what we're talking about. Joan Davidson.
I wanted to speak to what Malcolm was talking to about the governor's bill. Yes.
Joan, that has nothing to do with this.
It relates to this. Why
Okay,
it doesn't
please bring it in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And although the governor had a bill, he has a lot of exceptions in the bill. And what I'm trying to do is what Harry Truman always said is trust but verify. And if it's true that you think you have all the protection in the world, great. But I think you should tack on an amendment to this agreement, this was what you're talking about, as well as any of them, to protect the kids. Because truly, there's a data warehouse in this state. We still have it. It's Rupert Murdoch's wireless generation.
Okay, but
So what's happening is the data gets released.
Okay, but I understand what you said the last time around.
Okay.
Now, this particular agreement is a purchasing agreement. It isn't something that has anything to do with privacy.
It has leasing, data, processing equipment in it.
I took your comment to heart. When we get to the board policy, which we'll bring up, we will have a full and complete discussion of exactly the items you're raising. We understand what you're saying also with regard to this, but I think we got your point.
I hope so. I'm not going to go on because I'm going to write my letter to the newspaper and you'll read it in the newspaper. But the point is, you need to protect the kids, and there's nothing that protects them unless the local board does something.
Thank you.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sandy Valeri.
Sorry, might say mine is the same thing. I was talking about this service agreement, this purchase of service agreements that was on this line item is the same thing. I realize that I'm happy to live in California where they have recently passed a law that offers us so many protections. But the way I understand the law, it basically protects our children against marketing. It says that their children's data cannot be mined for marketing practices, which is great. But it doesn't say it can't be used and sold and used for other activities. And there was recently a case where in Chula Vista, data was sold. A school district actually sold data.
And I had the same comment. We understand. I mean, I understood your point the last time, and we'll address it in the right way. And I understand how it relates to this.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. We have a recommendation.
I move approval of resolution number 21-2014/15 to approve the contract with IVS Computer Systems, Inc., to purchase smart brand technology and related equipment and services.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'm approving it because I trust you will come to us when we need more money.
M4.
Okay, M4 is the residency based on parent-guardian employment for the 2015-16 school year. This is commonly referred to as the Allen Bill. And annually, we could bring this item to the Board of Education for approval, which allows us to continue the program for the 2015-16 school year to put the Allen Bill program into place as we start gearing up for enrollment. So by your approving this, what we're doing is basically we'll be notifying our community, our potential enrollment for the 2015-16 that the Allen bill process will be available for next year.
Okay, and you have two exhibits. One is our AR, which obviously is what our AR is. The other exhibit is the application. Has anything changed other than the dates? Has anything changed on this application from last year's approved application?
Yeah. No. It's the same practice, same procedure, policy as last year, just date change.
Okay, so anybody have any questions?
Unless any of the laws have changed, which I presume they haven't.
Can I ask a stupid question?
No, you
Sorry.
can ask any
I
question.
probably have a lot. So I just want to make sure I understand how this works. So do kids have to move schools? So if they're Allenville students and they're at Monte Malaga, would they have to move if residents would fill the school? Or once you're there, you're there?
Once what the law says is that once you accept a student under Allenville, we treat them as a resident.
Okay.
So they have
for their whole education.
Right. So if a student, for example, it's when people, we don't place students that are coming into Allenville ahead of any residents. They are the last placements. So if there's somebody may come into Allenville and next month and say, I'd like to fill out, the application actually is available in March, and at that point people can apply. There's a process they have to provide proof that they're working and follow those guidelines. Then if they're accepted, we wait till we can place as many of our residents, even those people that come in over the summer, possibly even after they submit their application, because the priority goes to residents. Once we accept a student under Allenville, now they are considered, they get residency status where they are treated like
From then on.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Except that the residency status isn't like a residence in the sense that if they no longer qualify.
Correct. It's not a grandfathered in. They have to annually provide documentation.
But this is similar in line with our prior practice. There's nothing new here. We're just updating it because it's a new year and we need to approve
Correct.
it for the next.
So it's an annual thing
Exactly.
that we bring to you.
So I move approval if.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. M5, appointment of board reps. This is where I normally walk out of the room and come back 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
All right, so we have a number of committees. I don't even know who's on what of a lot of these. Jana, do you know who's what currently? You've done an excellent job, Tony. You're so under the radar that no one even knows that you're the rep, so that's got to be good, right?
And not only that, I also am on the use of school facilities board subcommittee that Aaron Lamont was also on, so it would make sense that I would stay on that in terms of a continuation of knowledge.
So is there anybody that's dying to be on any of the first three? The School Boards Association, the Committee on School District Organization, or the County Trustee Association representative?
No, and there's also no work involved in all three of them.
They're very
I mean, there is absolutely
important
no
votes
work
that take
involved.
place. I would be more than willing to continue on those.
If I had understood, if I had understood that, I would have done those for the last 7 years.
You
Darn
left
it.
the room last time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Tony, happy to do it?
Yeah, I'll be
All right,
more than willing to
fabulous.
continue
This will be the year they'll all three be very active.
We can hope. Barbara has been our SoCal ROC board member for several years. They're going through a huge transition. She's been intimately involved in this. My personal preference, if you had the willingness to continue to serve, because you're so versed in it, would be great. But if you don't want to, I'd understand, and we could entertain somebody else. Is anyone dying to do it?
I'll continue to do it because we are in a big transition.
There's a big learning curve.
There is a big learning curve. In fact, but I would like Linda, because you're a new board member, I want you, yes, I'm talking to you. I think it would be a great idea if you and the superintendent and I went and toured the facility, because you're going to be asked to vote on funding for it, and you really need to see it before you vote on something. And the time to see it is a Monday through Thursday between 3:30 and 5 p.m. I hope you've got one of those days available. Maybe in early February we could talk.
Okay, that'd be great.
Does that sound good? Okay. It'll be fun.
So the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure M, we sometimes divide up the meetings and someone goes to one of, we can continue to do that, or one person can do all of them.
I'll go in May.
You do the May?
I'll do the May.
I did one.
You did the last one, I think,
November.
Malcolm.
Okay. I probably will be not laid up by the 24th of March, so you can put me down for that one. Okay, so
And
I
then when
guess,
we get the new schedule, I will send it out.
and we'll search for volunteers. All right. The Technology Advisory Committee, we've had two long-standing members, right?
I've been doing it longer than I've been on the board.
And Erin was doing it with you, wasn't she?
Correct.
So who has an interest in technology?
And I'm more than willing
To untechnologically?
to continue doing that.
Okay.
Why don't we let Malcolm stay on it, and if somebody else wants to join him at a later date, there's an open spot.
These meetings are normally in the afternoons, like 3:30, because we have lots of participation from faculty and staff.
And that's traditionally why I haven't done it, because I'm not available.
And in this room, and it's often filled. So, it's another thing, Linda, if you want, I don't know whether you've ever been to one of these?
Yeah, I'll probably try to come if I can. depending
Yeah,
on what
that
else
sort
we
of
do.
thing. I
let
mean,
me know
just,
when they
it's
are.
an enlightenment.
Is that on your schedule too?
Yes.
Okay.
But we don't have, do we?
We don't have
the next
anything
one
scheduled.
But we'll be having that coming up soon.
Gotcha.
Okay, the School Facilities Board Subcommittee.
What does that mean?
That had been Tony and Aaron, and, right?
Sure.
And that was
Civic Center permit.
Civic
Not,
Center permits, so
We've not met maybe in the last 4 months or so, but there was a lot of work done with Lydia on Lydia's behalf and Aaron's, especially on School Dude and agreements, and a lot of momentum started, and then a lot of partnership conversation. I think it's
I personally think there's more work to be done there,
Yes.
and we need to.
There's a lot of work to be done still.
I have all of a sudden become a school facilities user, apparently.
Perhaps you'd like to join Tony and myself.
So that's what I was going to suggest, so I can become a citizen using a park rather than some great organizer of an informal volleyball game. Yeah.
There's a backstory, folks.
Yeah, there's a long backstory. Okay, so Tony and I will do that one, I guess. The facilities needs assessment, I think that one is something we just need to do as a group. Because that's the next great topic, is how we're gonna start to, we have some money, we need to start developing the program. We need to do it as a special board meeting where we set aside the topic at a time and so on, and we'll schedule that in the spring sometime when everyone has had an ample opportunity to prepare for it. So I think we'll get rid of that one.
Okay.
Other board-approved committees. I don't think I'm on the other board approved committee.
What would they be?
It would be if you wanted to have any other committees.
it's not a board committee, but I do think we made a recommendation that the superintendent should consider an advisory committee, so it's not necessarily with us. Yes, but we did bring it up at one point, so maybe in another time when appropriate.
Give him a little more time to settle into his job before he makes such a momentous decision.
And it might include a board member, actually, but anyhow, I'm just reminding us that we talked about that. Are there any other committees or needs that we have that are floating out there that?
Well, there was, if you remember, Tony, golly, has it been a couple of years ago, where it was a superintendent's committee that had to do with, curriculum. But the other one I was thinking was fundraising. That really didn't have any board member participation. It was primarily with our stakeholder groups, PTA, Ed Foundation, booster clubs and things like that, and trying to get some kind of better understanding of coordination and what have you. But that hasn't really...
But we're talking about board-appointed committees here.
Well, but we had morphed into the discussion of the superintendent's possible future decision to have a advisory committee. So that's, I thought.
So
where the
whether it
discussion
was
going.
advisory, or maybe we could make a recommendation.
Yeah.
And this is what's coming off my question, Barbara. Are there things that we know as a district or staff knows that there may be needs for a new committee that doesn't currently exist or not?
I don't believe at this point we need any more subcommittees. I think
I would actually want to direct the superintendent to consider looking at some of the committees that have existed that I actually think were there for the right reason, but maybe dissolved or didn't happen. And it doesn't mean we need to create them for the sake of creating them, but I don't think that we should eliminate the possibility.
we can always create a subcommittee when we need it. I just can't think of anything, a need at this moment.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's really what we're talking about.
All this talk of additional work is apparently making my arms spontaneously bleed. I don't know why.
We've got a stigmata thing
That's
going up
a
here.
message about the
Do you need a Band-Aid? Oh, my God,
I don't know.
Larry.
I was just happy I didn't get it on my shirt because I was never going to go. The PVP
I have a dirty napkin.
council
got his
meetings,
towel.
He got a towel.
the PTA council meetings.
So historically, you would go.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen at 9 o'clock on the
I've-
third Friday of every month.
I've gone to a couple of, I couldn't go last week because we were all down at PV High. Was I missed? So I would be good in covering that.
Okay, and then it's, if there's one or two you can't meet or whatever, send me a note and I'll beg somebody else to go.
Yeah, and they're always the third Friday, Jana?
Yes.
And they're always up at the library? The Penn Central?
I think so. You know, some of their special meetings, like the holiday one is different, and
Right.
the end of the year is different, but.
I just don't want to show up and no one's there.
You will get an invitation if
Okay.
it's a special meeting.
Happened.
And then we
I
also
know.
have the
All
ledge.
dressed up.
Then you also have the ledge rep meetings, the first Wednesday of the month at noon.
Did that for a couple of years. I don't remember anyone from the board. No offense if none of you were memorable, but I don't remember any of you.
Well, I can assure you it wasn't me. I mean, not in the middle of the day.
It hasn't really historically been
Been
an official appointment.
appointment,
If
yeah.
someone was interested, they went. Many times we
When I
had
was the board
presidents
president,
who were
Quite frankly,
interested and they
when-
went.
And I rub it in.
But
Different year.
Yeah.
I think it's
I went by
important.
invitation only.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, this particular topic they're talking about or something like that. I don't
yeah.
know.
Maybe by committee, meaning several of us can try when possible. If Linda's saying she can go a few times, I can't commit to more than once or twice, but I think it
How
is
about-
very important for that particular group to have board representation.
We stick it on our monthly calendar, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And so,
someone should call me if they would like to go.
yeah, or the other thing we can do is maybe in the superintendent Fridays, the week before, we come up to the next one. If you don't have anybody signed up, Don can send in the note reminding us that we have nobody going, and it'd be great if someone had the time, and that way we might get a volunteer. To the extent that you tracking it that carefully.
Okay.
That way you're not having to beg people every time. We just send out a note. We did have one speaker. After Deb has got something to say.
Okay. You guys make committees because, or you go to committee meetings because you have an interest in the topic that's being discussed. But then you create committees because there's a need to discuss it, and those committees don't always meet. So for instance, facilities use hasn't met in a year and a half, Tony. So, yeah, it hasn't met.
The board president.
Or it's met once, I should say, in a year and a half, right? So that's something that we need to meet about. There's a need versus an interest, and if we're going to make the subcommittee where there's a need, let's make sure that we meet. Thank you.
This generally depends on which member of the staff is involved. So if it's something that has to do with budget or whatever, Lydia will coordinate through Dawn on those types of things.
And I think it's important to note that the implication is that no work is, it doesn't mean that work isn't necessarily getting done, especially with someone like Lydia leading the charge. It just means that that committee may not be meeting to discuss it. So there has been a lot of progress on the Civic Center and School Dude.
And actually, we've had, those have come directly to the board.
Although I will agree without question, there is much work to be done in that area.
And typically, the idea of the subcommittee is that you can get work done in a longer, more informal setting, but you only can have 2 board members on it, and it, right, and it allows you to do additional, more in-depth work, and then the board members are designated, 2 representatives come back and explain what happened and share, and if there's a concern, we talk about it at the table with all 5 of us. Okay, Janet, did we cover everything?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Budget, always a fun topic.
Okay, I'm going to ask Kathy to come up and join me.
Kathy wishes this was 2 hours ago, but that's all right.
And before we ask you to approve the first draft of the budget calendar, what we'd like to do is just give you a very brief overview of the governor's budget, which we attended with a very large team from the district that was presented by School Services of California. Oh, it's not a...
And what I did for Tony and Larry, since they weren't able to attend, in the back of our binder, every attendee got 2 of these, which is just a summary. When I got home and I looked at these, I said, these have got to be, souvenirs that we give to our fellow board members. So Larry and Tony, that's how you got that. I lightened the load of my binder.
Well, if I'm not brief enough, just give me the nod and I'll keep going. So, okay. So we know that the governor's not wavering on LCFF and LCAP. He is still committed to full implementation by 2021. He's also budgeted $9 million in one-time money to eliminate the remaining deferrals, which will be in effect for 14-15. And he's made a 3-year commitment to adult ed, ROCP, and CTE, and he'll be establishing his rainy day fund. On the topics on this slide, we're going to go into more detail as we move forward, but the one thing that I do want to mention is that most of the categoricals have been consolidated into the LCFF funding model, and the only categorical that is still outside the LCFF model, which our district receives, is the special ed funding. And so this is the first year in a long time that there is a COLA on categorical programs. So there will be a 1.58% COLA for special education funding. Okay, it's all yours, Kathy.
Okay. The governor's budget does include $4 billion for the continued implementation of LCFF. That new funding should close the gap between current funding levels and the LCFF at full implementation by just over 32%. So combined with 13-14 and 14-15 LCFF funding, the implementation progress would cover just under 60% of the gap in the last 3 years. LCFF funding for 2015-16 would provide for an average increase in per pupil funding of 8.7%, or $675 per ADA. But the increase for PVPUSD is 7%, which equates to $475 per ADA, which totals $4.9 million. It is important to note that the 2015-16 multi-year projections in the current district budget already include $3.1 million in increased LCFF funding, so there's really only $1.8 million that we haven't already accounted for. The governor is also proposing $1.1 billion in discretionary one-time Prop 98 funding to offset prior year mandated cost claims. The anticipated allocation would be about $180 per ADA, which would be about $2 million for our district. The funds are completely discretionary. However, the governor has suggested that they could be used to further the implementation of Common Core, also the newly adopted English language development, and California's next generation science standards. And I do want to mention that while we will receive the funds in 15-16, there is no deadline for when we need to spend them. And they are one-time monies. The governor is proposing a $500 million block grant for adult education. This is new money and doesn't include any of the funds currently included in the maintenance of effort requirement, which is that in 2014-15, we must maintain the same level of expenditures that we paid with state funds in 2012-13, and that was about $45,000. This grant funding that we will receive in 2015-16 will be provided directly to us in the same amount as our MOE, which is the $45,000 I just mentioned. School districts' maintenance of effort requirements for ROP programs does expire at the end of 2014-15. So as part of his commitment to Career Tech Ed and ROP, the governor is proposing $250 million in each of the next 3 years for a new CTE incentive grant program. And the intent is that LEAs will work together in partnerships to offer regional ROP programs. And we do have an agenda item scheduled for the February 12th board meeting to discuss Southern California ROC funding.
Career technical education money, this new $250 million, is really earmarked for programs like SoCal. So we will be applying for that grant. We just don't know
And
the terms of the grant.
No,
the
they didn't really
conditions,
specify
waiting to see
anything
the
yet.
application.
on the, I'll be talking about my experience at CSBA in December, going to the conference up there. But I was on the exhibit floor, where they're showing all the wares and things like that, and saw Kevin Gordon and Jack O'Connell. And they specifically talked about this program.
What did they say?
Well, that it is something that is favorable for SoCal ROC. I mean, I didn't bring up the topic, they did.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's our understanding.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, for districts that operate transportation programs, we receive our funding as an add-on to the LCFF as long as we meet the maintenance of effort requirement, which is that we must spend no less than the amount we spent for transportation in 2012-13, which was approximately $785,000. However, our LCFF add-on for transportation is $329,000, and that is not eligible for any COLA.
And deferred maintenance continues to be a part of the LCFF base grant, and it is a priority one on our LCAP, and it has been a priority for our district as well. And at this time, we have just over $700,000 budgeted to continue the deferred maintenance program, and that is also in our multi-year projections as well. And we'll continue to discuss this as we develop our budget for 2015-16.
That's $700,000 a year. That's the total up to this point.
Each year.
Each year,
Yes.
$700,000.
And 14-15 is the last year for the flexibility for routine restricted maintenance. And at the end of 14-15, we will have our routine restricted maintenance budget at 3% of the total district general fund expenditures, and we'll continue that for the outgoing years as well. In CalSTRS, PERS, one of the biggest controversial issues at this time, we know that the increase is going to go from 8.25% for CalSTRS to 19.1% in 2021, and for CalPERS from 11.442% to 20.4% in 2021. And unfortunately, the governor did not address these costs in his budget for 2015-16. You can see what we have budgeted currently in CalSTRS for 14-15 is 4.5. Going to 4.9, and then 5.8 in 2016-17. And for CalPERS, it's currently 1.5, 1.7 in 15-16, and then 2.1 million in 16-17. So you can see that those costs are going up significantly.
So for all the rays of sunshine and some of the other aspects where there's a little bit more money than we thought we were going to get, this one really is.
That's right into it.
Yeah, and Tony, they showed at the school services, they actually had a the governor likes to talk, I think he was talking about a 39% increase in funding over the past 4 years. And so they showed the slope of the line. But then what they did, because of this, is they reduced that slope. And so there was that kind of a gap. And they said, if don't expect LCFF to cover this stuff. It needs to be an entirely different pile of cash.
And because it is such a hot topic at this time, being a member of CASBO and active in their legislative group, and then we've also been talking quite a bit with Kevin Gordon. We know that CSBA and AXA, they are all lobbying this as a top priority, and hopeful that there will be some changes in the future.
Meaning in a revise?
In a revise. And at this time, if anyone has any questions, we'll be happy to address them.
The only thing I would make a comment is that when we start to develop a budget, if it looks like we're going to have that $1 million number that money that has one time but has no expiration, let's consider putting into a program like STEM or something that will make it sustainable for a number of years, rather than spending it on something in the year we're implementing or whatever. If we've identified 2 or 3 programs that we think are things that we want to have and we want to have in the future, and we don't have to, we have some money that's independent of having to go to our support groups and say, please see if you can raise this fund and that fund and so on. It'd be nice to have some district set aside funds for 1 or 2 kinds of programs like that are education related, not maintenance related, not facilities related, not implementation of Common Core related, but something that is something
that we like ourselves, that we think is fabulous.
And
STEM or like a foreign language thing or anything.
I mean, just something that's and that gives us a format for 2 or 3 or 4 years to say, this is how we're going to spend the money to guarantee that this program will exist long enough to have a foothold that it stays with us. We've kind of come in and out of some programs in the time I've been on the board because of money issues, where it would have been nice maybe to consider keeping 1 or 2 of them when we lost a grant, for example. Anyway.
And that transitions right into what I wanted to talk about on the budget calendar, because that's where you're going next.
Yes.
Is because that's one of the things that we would be discussing in budget assumptions. And in order to talk about budget assumptions, we have to talk about board goals. And we need to, because it's all part of the budget process, and that's how, forget about LCFF right now. The way we've always done budget is you adopt your board goals, drive your budget assumptions, and then you make adjustments as more information filters down from Sacramento, and ultimately you come up with a budget in June and we adopt it. Well, now we've got, and so this is exactly one of those budget assumptions that we should talk about. How are we going to use this money and just not automatically throw it into those programs that the governor's suggesting? Because there really are some other things. There may be some other things we want to do with the money. I don't know, but I like the idea of using it for STEM. But there might be some other programs we might want to continue on our own to have the seed money to keep it going. But now with the local control funding formula and all that, now we have the LCAP committee that operates separately from the Board of Education. And they're looking at the LCFF, monies, and they're making decisions on how the money should be utilized. And we have every special interest group on that committee except the Board of Education. And yet at the end of the day, it's the Board of Education that has to adopt the plan. And we really have had no input into it, And I know last year, because we only had the 4 months, you were pressed for time on all of that. But it just seems to me there has to be a better way where the board knows what's happening with the committee, what decisions are being talked about, what the thought process is, and we didn't have that last year. We didn't have the luxury of time. There needs to be some cross-pollination or something between what the board's goals are and what the board thinks and how the money's being allocated. And I just think we've got these two separate things going on, and we really need to somehow bring them together or communicate somehow. It just isn't, I was very unsatisfied with the way the process worked last year, and I just felt the board had really been left out of the whole thing, and we just, well, it was a short time
And
frame.
plus, Sacramento was making it up as they were going along. I mean, the LCFF
I'm not
guidelines were
arguing
written on an Etch-a-Sketch.
But
you
now
know.
we've got the time. Is there a better way? Do we need board members on that committee? I don't know. Maybe they're not supposed to be on the committee, but if we have to adopt the plan, shouldn't we at least have some input as to, we got everyone else on that committee and their dog. Like, you know, we need, well, I don't know, maybe everyone else is happy with how it's going, but I just felt like we'd been not intentionally left out, but that's how I felt. And we're responsible for that money at the end of the day.
Can I just say, I was on that committee last year as a parent. I think I was called normal parent, was my official title, was like parent with no special interest or whatever. And I found it a bizarre process where we, even those of us in the room, didn't really have any input. And it was already sort of predetermined what was going to happen. And it was just bizarre. And then when you guys put me here, somebody, and I don't remember who told me that I couldn't be on that anymore, but somebody said, oh, you can't do that anymore. So I said, okay, that seems reasonable.
What are the guidelines?
I don't know. So it's still kind of it's confusing to everybody, I think.
Mr. Canavas, if I may, can I interject here?
Clarify the whole thing.
I don't have a lot of areas of expertise, but this is one where I feel pretty comfortable. I did run the entire process in my previous position. I met with Dr. Culverhouse for about 2 hours on this exact topic today, and I have pictures to prove it. So we drew things out, and our issue here is it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg. Okay, so we are out of cycle to line this up the way it would be done ideally. And we're going to be out of cycle for this year. This is a limp through year to some degree with some opportunities for corrections. Barbara is exactly right in that board goals should have come first, followed by a strategic plan, which then would have been in the picture we drew. That's page 1, that's page 2. LCAP starts on page 3 and has to be in complete alignment. Absent those two documents being current and relevant in the new system, page 3 is going to feel independent and like a side committee. So my meeting with Dr. Culverhouse today, we're doing a couple things. First of all, we're going to ask to place a process/progress on LCAP in our February meeting, which is moving that up. I've also asked her to look for opportunities to correct to where we can make sure that what the work is taking place has alignment to our existing board goals. You have board goals. We have a strategic plan. I would like to revisit those in the late spring and in the fall. But we have documents to tie back to. And so we're doing some pre-correcting, but really putting the board goals and spending some time on it, not 20 minutes, but some extended time, is a really essential step if we're ever going to feel like this, we can get back into a sense of alignment and the board feel like they have more control. Then the committee is still working, but they're working within established parameters. I hope that makes sense and it wasn't too much. The last part about should you have board members on that committee, the answer is no. You should not have them on that committee because they get a double bite at the apple. So ultimately, the regulations stipulate that the board has to review the document publicly, superintendent has to respond to written questions, then the board has to take final action with the final budget in the last meeting in June.
Well, then I request that, I don't know, again, I know absolutely nothing about this committee. I mean, we got some information last year, but really I know nothing about how often it meets, when it meets, what they talk about, what paperwork they look at. I understand there's a template, you know. So, being an ignorant person, I would feel much more comfortable if, after the committee has met, if someone, I guess an administrator, who has been physically in the room and listened to everything that's gone on, can come back to the board and report what's gone on. So at least I'll feel like I'm not an observer, but at least I'll understand what they're talking about. And if there are issues that have come up that they're discussing, maybe we could be made aware of it.
In fairness, we were provided updates. What I would say in agreement with you is I think last year was a lot more about compliance than authentic engagement at the level it should be, not on necessarily our part, on the part of the community to look at the strategic plans and goals and then feed back to us. So oftentimes we were getting kind of raw data of like, here's some things that were discussed, and it hadn't even been comprehensively analyzed yet. So I agree with you, Barbara, but I do think we were provided some preliminary, but I would like to see it move to a more authentic engagement.
So with the budget calendar then, could we somehow put in whenever, like on the budget calendar that we have in front of us, and I'm not sure the dates are accurate or things, it says on January 20th, there was an LCAP committee meeting. Was there? Huh?
Yes. Audience participation, Deb was also at that meeting, yes. We've had 2 meetings, and I agree with Dr. Austin. We're not in a cycle that I would like to see, but I was not here to create that cycle. But going forward, so we had
meeting 2 days ago.
Mhm.
Can anyone tell us what you talked about at the meeting?
Sure.
If you're not ready, we could wait till the meeting in February.
Well,
Something, just
we already have as a placeholder the February 12th meeting for a full presentation. So if it's okay, I'd like to come in better prepared as a group and a team and do a quality job and entertain questions.
As far as the budget calendar is concerned and the draft we have in front of us, I do have a couple of specific suggestions to consider that might address a little bit of what's being talked about. You had the first, you reviewed a couple days ago what the goals were from last year, half of them. And now the LCAP is going to do the other half of the goals in February 4th. It seems to me that at the February 12th meeting we have written as provide direction on development of budget assumptions, we're not really going to be providing direction on budget assumptions on February 12th with what little we know now. But what we could be doing is we could be looking at an overview. You know, our district goals are, we got the broadest ones that we talked about, and we got very specific. And I have a feeling that when we talk about these in depth at some point in the future, we probably won't be as specific with many things that we felt like we needed to do the last few years, that we'll probably do something differently. I think it's something that maybe we could tack if we, looking at, and I'll work with Dr. Austin on this later, some of the stuff that we may have penciled in there, moving that around a little bit, and maybe have a broad discussion of the board goals on the 12th, because then that gives the LCAP committee meeting on the 24th, they have an idea of any of the goals that may have changed that would affect how they are going to approach their LCAP thing. So if they were tracking our board goals last year and we've made a fundamental change in 1 or 2 things, they'll have 2 weeks to prepare for that meeting, say, this, you may want to consider this. Then when we get to the meeting on February 26th, we'll have gotten an LCAP process update from a couple days before, and we then, if we need to give review and direction and budget assumption based on that update and what they're hearing, that may be the appropriate time to do it, or maybe even not till March 12th. Because I'm guessing that we're really not going to give any direction until March 12th when we have the second interim report. And we have some additional information, and and at that point, we'll have the LCAP committee will have a draft going to the administrators that they will have looked at for the first time. May not come to us, but you'll know what the thinking process is going on, and we'll be in a little bit better position to then try to tie board goals in to what we're doing with budget assumptions.
Yeah, well, budget assumptions follow a pretty normal, I mean, there's certain things you're gonna, utilities, I mean, there are just some things that just.
Which don't require any input from us, basically. You come to us and tell us what you're doing with many of those things and the reason why. Maybe we, instead of having the way this is written with the February 12th board meeting development of budget assumptions, maybe the February 12th meeting is a general overview of district goals. It's not an in-depth one down to the level that we've done before, but it's to look at the goals, discuss them briefly, and if there's some major change or something we think we want to discuss that's different, we get that out in the open now, because then they have a month to react to it for the LCAP group and also in developing budget assumptions.
Can I just ask a quick clarifier? Would you then suggest that we move the update on LCAP to the second February meeting? Am I hearing that correctly? We're doing board goals on the 12th?
Yeah, you wouldn't until you have, and frankly, the February 24th meeting of the LCAP committee, giving 2 days to make a board presentation, I don't think is necessarily helpful either. I think you could even move that update all the way to March 12th.
Okay.
Which that time, you've had the time to draft, they're working on the draft, so you actually have a better sense of what it is, and you're not trying to rush it. These 2-day thing that came in from last year was because we were just trying to get something done, so we had something on a piece of paper so that we weren't yelled at. But it really wasn't terribly meaningful. It was trying to tie together things. Now, not that it didn't do a great job, because my eyes glazed over reading all this stuff. I mean, but it wasn't something that we used to develop a lot of board stuff.
That's
Okay,
perfect.
so the February 12th meeting, we're going to change it to just be general discussion on board goals?
Yes.
Okay.
February 26th, an LCAP process update would be fine, but I think that can even wait till the 12th of March.
So at the February 26th meeting, do you want any review or discussion or any kind of direction on board assumption, or do you want to continue discussion on district goals?
I think you'd probably continue discussion on district goals rather than having a board budget assumptions, because you're really not going to talk about it until you have the next interim report. We had that on there for a period of time because we need a message to get out about what was happening to our budget for the last 6 years.
Well,
And we took every opportunity.
We also needed to do that in preparation to.
For layoffs and
March the 15th.
we had there was a lot of financial decisions we had to make.
time.
Yeah, and there were a lot of those.
Well, you do want to talk about, for instance, what you want to do with the $1 million and, what's it, 1 million, 2 million in discretionary money?
Right, you can,
We could have that discussion as a board.
right, and you tie that in.
Or other things that people might want to use the money for, and you could do that at the February
So you could.
26th meeting, and then you could,
And
then you
then-
have some idea when you get to March, the next March meeting, that's a new budget assumption for you.
So I would keep the way it's written, I think that's right. Keep it the way it's written, review and give direction on budget assumptions and district goals for 2015-16. I think that's the right way to do that. I would cancel the LCAP process update, move that to the March 12th meeting so you have time to get it done. And then you have the interim report. March 12th becomes a little longer meeting. We do have to fit other things in there, like talking about facilities and so on. But facilities, some of that will be tied into board goals also, so facilities probably makes sense on maybe the February 26th meeting.
Okay, so the LCAP process update will move to the March 12th meeting?
Yeah. You know, the rest of the stuff all ties in, as long as you say, I mean, you have, again, March 24th an LCAP meeting and March 26th the draft of the board. Since the draft is being prepared on March 11th, it seems like, March 5th or 11th, seems like that should be enough time for the staff to take whatever little tweaks need to happen after the LCAP committee meeting on the 24th, although I encourage you to do that the week before so you have a little more time. You may want to do it on March 17th, but you may have timed this in. And then the rest of the stuff seems to kind of tie in.
Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that.
Okay, so Larry, I'm just going to review real quick. February 12th, we'll read general discussion on board goals. February 26th will remain the same, but I will remove LCAP process update. March 12th, we'll move the LCAP process update to the March 12th meeting.
And February 26th, one of the budget assumptions is going to be the 2 million in discretionary one-time money.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
We can talk about that or any other one under the link, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
So, and this will tie into some of the other stuff we're going to plan out for the next 6 months, so, okay. All right, so with those adjustments, is there any other comments anybody has? To N2, which is a budget revision. So you want to make the presentation, and then we have a speaker.
This just recognizes gifting funds that we've received through, I believe, December. So as you can see, we're proposing an increase in revenues of $540,506 and an increase in expenditures of the exact same amount to have a net impact, zero impact to the ending fund balance.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
How is this compared to last year? This time, do we know? I don't mean to put you on the
I'd
spot,
have to
but-
double check. I think we're about the same as last year from last time I
The
looked.
amount
but-
of money is the same, but last year we did this process much differently.
Yes, we did the process differently. We did switch maybe March last year. We started doing it this way as opposed to budgeting it ahead of time. Now we're doing zero-based budgeting and only budget funds when we receive them.
So we do have a speaker, and I just want to clarify something for the speaker before she speaks. And that is that this year, we've done zero-based budgeting on gifting. So we know during the period of the year, we're going to have monies that come in through booster funds, through stipend, through all sorts of things that come in, and we're going to spend money against that. But we don't budget the expenditure until we recognize the income. So over the course of the year, every year we say we get $3 million of stuff that comes in that supports athletic programs and other things. In the past, we would have budgeted the $3 million coming in, hoping it did, and then budget the expenditures against it. Now what we're doing is we're not budgeting the income till it actually shows up, and then we're putting in the budget a revision that shows what we spent the money on. So that's why it has a zero difference at the end. And at the end of the year, it'll end up being net the same as it was every other year, but it's done a different way, so it actually is recognized in the income and expense when it happens, rather than budgeting for something we don't know is going to happen.
Can't deficit spend with this.
Okay, so Sandy Valeri.
Thank you. Actually, my comment on the budget has to do with the fact that with recently there was the law passed regarding the rainy day fund, and it had to do with a requirement, I feel wholly unwise, but still you guys are required now to spend down, as I understand, you are going to be required to spend down your reserves by law. You are going to be required to hold less reserves than you were allowed to hold before. I don't necessarily think it's a smart thing, but I believe that that's a requirement now in the state law. And so that's going to, you were talking about the fact that you were saying, gee, if there's some funding that might be one-time funding that might be available for something. And I'm wondering that's something that's going to be a chunk of money that's going to be available that you don't want to just throw into a fund. You don't want to use it, for example, to fund something that would be recurring things like teachers, which recur hopefully for 50 years, but for something like deferred maintenance that needs to be caught up on, or maybe some of these other items like we were talking about, how do we fund STEM for 2 or 3 years, something like that. So I'm wondering if you've looked at how you might want to use this necessary buy down of your reserves.
I think
and what you
that's an
think you might
excellent
want to do with them.
question. That's an excellent question, and something that we will definitely have to understand how that works.
We will be discussing.
And we'll be
that, sure,
discussing
in
at
great
length.
detail.
You're-
Agonizing
It's
detail.
a very good point and an excellent question. We won't have the answer yet, but we'll work through it with that understanding of how we try to do that.
And it is,
I don't think it's a smart idea to buy them down, but I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like Common Core. Whether you like it or don't like it, we don't a lot of times have choice on a lot of these things, so we have to live
and
with it.
it's not a done deal. I mean, there are triggers that would occur, that would need to occur.
I think they've just about hit.
Well, there's also the just recently released the legislative analyst report where they too are urging the governor to revisit this. So
Revisit it, that's
there
kind
will
of weird.
be
He's saying get rid of it.
Yeah.
The LAO was very specific
Right.
that this is bad policy and get rid of it.
So I personally feel there's going to be some changes to the reserve cap.
Let's hope so. Okay, so we have,
I just have a question for Kathy. Under current considerations, it says you've increased books, this is the gifting money.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know the intricacies of all of, the detail of all of it, but we're increasing books and supplies by almost $219,000. And so what are we buying? Do you have any idea?
It's based on what the school sites send us. So when they send us, I don't know, a check for $10,000, they say budgeted in, materials or books or software. I don't know specifically.
You don't know the detail.
Not specifically what each site intends to use the money for.
Okay, so the site tells you to put in services or books and supplies or operating expenditures, and you don't know the detail of what.
We could
And
find
you have
out,
to
but
remember also, it's not necessarily spent. It's just the
They
money.
want to
now
spend it.
we're budgeting it to hold for something
Right.
that may or may not be spent at all this year.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they
Okay.
typically have it earmarked for something specific, and they tell us where they want us to budget it.
But they don't tell you.
Trent, can I ask you a question? It's more timely now than it was earlier. I know when I'm at Pepperdine and I have a grant and there's needs for technology and I say, hey, I need these 5 items, here's the chart string, here's the money. And historically there was somebody who would say something like, well, do you really need those items? And I didn't appreciate it, but their point was to either make sure I was buying the best product or maybe something, not to buy something that was outdated. Talk just briefly about what's going on right now in terms of, I'm at a school site, $50,000 was donated or raised at an event, and they want to buy 100 smart boards or 8-track players or something.
The first thing is that the money has to be gifted to the school, because what we try to avoid is that an organization, whether it be a PTA booster or somebody, just donates something and then they say, what happens is if there's a problem with it, the key is who has ownership of it. When the money's donated to the district and then we purchase it, we can handle returns better, we can handle repairs, we can have inventory, all those issues. So what we try to do is work with our partners just to have them gift the dollars, earmark it into their fund, and then we apply the charges to that fund. The other piece of it is exactly what you said, is everything is reviewed. Any technology purchase comes through our system, is flagged by staff in Lydia's department for approval from me. The other thing we put into place is we now have, like, for example, a software approval form, so that we're making sure that if there's 7 schools buying the same software, let's get volume pricing, let's provide staff development for it. Dr. Culver has to sign off on it. I have to sign off on it. And also it prevents us from having 35 different things that are doing the same, and then for parents, for teachers, we're trying to bring all that together.
I'm supporting Word and WordPerfect. Yeah.
And I ask that to highlight the fact that I think we have really developed a system that is doing a much better job of trying to get a handle, not even just a handle, advise the schools as best as possible about how we can get to the baseline,
right,
and make sure that we're kind of all on the same page across the district.
So we have a recommended action.
I move approval.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Come on, somebody. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. We're up to facilities. We have the update status report, which has the same one item it's had forever.
It does. I just want to give you a little further update. We have 2 of the teachers that are going to be occupying those classrooms joining us for a visit to look at 21st century classroom furniture. So the next thing that we have left to do is to order the furniture for the classrooms. So we've got 2 teachers that are going to join. Debbie, Joanne is going, Trent is going. So we can get the furniture ordered, and they're completing the landscaping this week and next week. And then they're going to begin their walkthrough for the punch list items. So the project is coming near completion, and we'll keep you updated.
Work, sit, desks, and all that stuff that go up and down on motors and.
Within reason.
Oh, okay, just checking.
What classrooms are you talking about? The ones that.
The new Penn High classroom, 6
Okay.
classroom buildings and a weight room.
Okay, so we're going to buy new furniture for the classrooms. Okay. And I know the new 21st century tables are odd-looking. You know, they're those odd-looking kind of, and honestly, I have to ask you, why don't the old square rectangular tables work?
Because they don't move.
Yeah, they do, you just push them together.
No, yeah, but these, you can actually do it and be done with it. You should go to CSBA sometime. You should see these classrooms where they can reconfig, I swear, I bet you seventh graders, they could have it done in 30 seconds.
Well, I can
The way
see
they
how the
could
pieces of the puzzle, I just,
Yeah.
Well, when we have our facilities meeting, what we're going to do is after they look at the furniture, we're going to bring to you the cost of equipping a standard classroom versus the cost of equipping a 21st century classroom, and then the board will make the decision on which direction we go. But we'll bring you both.
I just know we used to just push the desks together.
Well, we used to do a lot of things, but.
It worked, you know, it worked for 50 years, 100
I know,
years.
but it's a whole new century. And I would say we need a new definition of what standard is. Again, my eyes have been opened so wide as to what world-class districts are actually doing when it even comes to taking that 960 square feet and making it into something where you can have collaboration without thinking that you're Hannibal crossing the Alps. So it would do me good to make sure that we don't have one of those 50-year-old desks sitting in the warehouse with the thought that someone might use it someday.
It's actually sitting in a container over at Belmonte.
Is that where it is? Good.
At the warehouse.
Yeah, sell them for scrap.
The containers, too. Okay, so thank you. Any questions on the update? All right, so we have O2.
Let's see, O2,
That's just document signing.
document signing. O2 and O3.
Oh, I have a question, of course. Okay, in Exhibit A, the Malaga Cove site is missing from the listing of sites, and we do have students at Malaga Cove.
We're looking at O2.
Yeah, on Exhibit A, it's not on it.
I believe this really is for classrooms because it falls under the school facility program.
But we do have classrooms here.
We don't have our classrooms, though.
But we've
Where
just.
are classrooms that were I guess it's a new
But where SELPA is, forget the other ones.
Yeah, where SELPA is
Where
is
SELPA
classrooms.
is to a classroom standard,
The
I
whole
believe.
building wing.
Okay, well, I can go back to our vendor and ask them. They're the ones that have been, the school facility program, they've been providing all of the applications for us. So
Who
I
are
can go
those
back.
people?
School facility consultants. I'll ask them.
You might
No, but
ask
who
them.
are they? I mean, have we seen them before on a board report? I can't remember.
Well, you've had them in place prior to my coming here, and they're the ones that have helped us apply for all the funding for the school facility modernization programs.
Oh, I
Go back
think
to Vanner days.
Yeah, it used to go back to Vanner, and Vanner was helping us do that. So I just don't know who they are.
Is there any reason why delaying this to the next board meeting would cause problems, or no, it's not a problem to go back and, is there some sort of time constraint
I
here?
don't think so.
If you're asking them about Building E, do we have any SELPA classrooms in the building over?
Building over here that
We have
has,
2 wings of SELPA classrooms.
yeah.
So we really have, so we have 2 wings that might come under modernization.
If you'd like, I can go back and ask the question on Malaga Cove.
And then my other question is, over the years in all the modernization, of course, we've never done a thing with the maintenance yard. Have maintenance yards ever come into, has anyone ever done anything about cleaning them up?
I'm assuming it's pretty low on Unless
I mean,
it was
it's low on the.
unless it was an
low on the-
environmental
pretty
hazard.
low on the-
it's
on
the
the-
farthest thing away from students.
Yeah.
It's a rusty building. but-
Well, just ask the question, because every school district must have some sort of a maintenance yard or someplace where they put all that
Okay.
stuff.
The only thing I would need to find out is that our eligible school sites may require a CDS number, and because the SELPA program is an LA County program, it would not have a Palos Verdes Peninsula CDS number, and therefore it probably has a county CDS number, and maybe that's why it's not eligible.
I'm just asking, it's just,
So let me do this. Let me make a, no, I'm not supposed to do this. Let me make a recommendation that the board adopt resolution 17-2014-15 and 18/2014-15 as written, with the understanding that after consulting with the consultants, if there needed to be a change to add Malagove, it'd be so ordered without having to come back to the board.
perfect.
Second.
Any questions? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Come on, let's get going.
Consent calendar. We have to remove
Did you approve
P2.
2 and 3?
I did 2 and 3 both.
Okay.
Which ones are you removing?
We're going to remove P2D and P3C. So, does anybody else, we'll start at this end. Barbara, you have anything else you
Yeah,
want?
P1A, P3, this new way of doing it.
Sorry.
P3A, P3B, and P3D.
Okay. Malcolm, do you have any?
None.
Okay, Tony, do you have any?
No.
Linda, do you have any that? Okay, you'll get in the swing after once you. Okay, so can someone move approval of P1B, P2A, P2B, P2C, P2E, P2F, P3E, P4A, P4B, P4C?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, P1A, Barbara.
Okay, John, I have a question for you. It has to do with the consultant services, or maybe it's not you, maybe it's Joanne. And it's the first one, we're going to provide training for elementary teachers to pilot reading instructional materials, to assess the Ready to Reading program, to determine if it's a match for the district. So could you just kind of explain what we're doing there?
Yes, it's a program called Reading Ready. As we're focusing on our math, we're also focusing on our reading, looking at the inconsistency within the 10 elementary schools. We're looking at this not as a pilot. There are programs that would put tools in front of with the teachers to teach reading. And what we're doing is we're going into 3 different classrooms, and Michelle Marcus is going. It's not a pilot, but Michelle Marcus will be assisting the teachers at 3 different schools. And the consultant had worked with our teachers, and we could only get her on that the 15th. So she has come in to work with our teachers.
So are these are reading programs we're talking?
Yes.
Okay, does that involve textbooks?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, okay. But you said it was math and reading.
The reading ready is just for the reading.
Okay. You've answered my question then, okay. I'm good with that one. I have one more question, and it's another consultant. So I think it's going to be you, Joanne, and not John. Provide training or coaching workshops for TK through 6 teachers in the area of cognitive guided math instruction, CGI. So we're going to have training workshops for the TK in the sixth grade through sixth in math. And my only comment was, I think it's great we're giving training to the teachers, because obviously if they're going to teach the kids, they need to be trained in it. But could we, as this goes along, could some of that be shared with the board?
Yes, it can.
Whatever, I mean, there are changes happening in the curriculum, and can some of that be brought forward to us, so we have kind of, as the teachers are going along and getting trained, we might get a simplified version or a summary or something, so we understand what's going on?
We can definitely do that, and CGI, just to clarify, is not a curriculum. That's purely
Strategy.
instructional strategies.
Okay.
But
See,
that,
that's why I
but,
needed the
but that
training.
alone already illustrates that there's enough confusion that we should bring some examples here, and that would be a great presentation for the board. We can absolutely do that, especially given the fire it's catching in the district with our elementary school teachers. They're excited about it, and it was piloted, and it's grassroots. So we can absolutely do that for you.
And I would add on that in terms. I mean, I'm very familiar with CGI and the expertise coming out of UCLA and Wisconsin. I mean, this is not for the kind of rhetoric that we're hearing about things that have not been tested or things that are not grounded in empirical data or research-based. This is as research and empirically based as it comes. So these are strategies that are highly effective, that are just good teaching regardless of what standards you're working.
That's why we need, as a board, we need to know that too. And that's my, just like the LCAP, I felt like I was on the outside looking in on curriculum many times, because I'm not a curriculum person and truly have no great interest in it. But when we're doing things like this and we're training teachers, I would love to know some of what they're learning.
We can absolutely do a presentation on it.
That would be great, so thank you. So those were my questions for P1, so I move approval now.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, Joanne, P2D.
As you can see, our MUN students are going to Huntington Beach High School the 29th of January, and if you've been watching the news, Huntington Beach High School has been on the news, national news for the measles outbreak. We are being proactive, just informing the board. We are pulling the names of the students. We already have the names of the students. We are checking their immunization records and making sure that they are immunized with the measles, and also the adults that are going. And so we are being proactive before we send our students to Huntington Beach High School.
Thank you for the clarification.
On behalf of my immune-compromised child, I appreciate that. Thank you.
They were saying something on the news that one vaccination for measles is not enough, that you have to have two. So I guess we're checking to see if people have gotten two vaccinations or something.
Wasn't it just a booster?
We will be doing the appropriate checking.
Whatever it is, I'm sure you will.
Well, that's all I did with my kids.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All right, since it was a staff thing, I'll move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Barbara, P3A.
Okay. This is the amendment to the LACO contract. And it's kind of the way it's written is kind of confusing. And when I tried to bring up Exhibit A on my computer for the original master contract, it didn't come up on my computer, but all the two-page amendments showed up. I don't know why, but anyway, this has to do with the lease of classrooms at Malaga Cove and Mural Est Intermediate School by LA County Office of Education. So anyway, my concern is, in the background information, it's just kind of written kind of confusingly. I mean, you just needed to say, in 2006, we entered into a contract with LACO, which allowed LACO to lease classrooms at Mural Est and Malaga Cove sites, and since then, we have had several amendments in the following year. So this is the 8th amendment to the contract. So my concern is, under current considerations, it says we are allowing them basically to rent the classrooms at no cost to LACO. And, it's not really, and then underneath, under financial impact, you talk about a separate agreement. And then, not having seen the master contract, I'm not exactly sure what it said, but the way it works is LACO rents classrooms from us, and we buy services from LACO. This is how it's been explained to me. And our cost for the services provided by LACO is greater than the money that they owe us. So no money comes to us from LACO. It's just It just offsets part of what we owe LACO, is what's going on here, is my understanding.
The SELPA agreement with Southwest, with our special ed SELPA, is the reimbursement to the district, but there is a repayment for the modernization to those wings that are completely separate agreement for 10 years. And so until that 10 years, I believe, is expired, is why they have the lease for $0. And then the services
money
are
to-
through the SELPA.
Did they put the, I can't remember, Larry, can you remember, or Malcolm? Did SELPA, did LACO put up the money for the modernization of those classrooms? No.
No, we did, and then
And
they're
they're-
reimbursing us back
And they
over 10
reimburse
years.
us.
Okay, so
But this is an agreement between LA County Office of Education and us for facility supply services for special ed programs. It has nothing to do with the Southwest SELPA. This agreement, I'm looking at the one you couldn't open. It's between LACO and PVP, and it's a master
Right.
agreement covering facilities.
I didn't bring up the SELPA, that's in the financial impact in the agenda report.
Right.
That's where I got it from. So is there a cost associated in that? Is there something there? A cost?
With the SELPA?
No, with,
LACO, well, the district provides the facilities to LACO at no cost, and we receive a fee in accordance with the Southwest SELPA, the local plans approved facilities use analysis, which is a separate agreement and not part of this contract. We provide custodial services, normal building maintenance, utilities, classroom furniture, and so on. Then we get paid through SELPA for the use of the facilities, which is a different agreement than even the one about reimbursing us the $100,000 a year over 10 years.
It's very confusing. Anyway,
You want me to, I can email you this, I think. The master
can
agreement.
print it.
It didn't want to open even
no,
on this
it wouldn't, no, it just came up blank on my computer, but all the two-page amendments that had no costs associated or anything.
all say this.
They all opened up.
Yeah, and the main agreement is just what I just said, and the payment is zero, and the custodian.
Okay, cool, I didn't have that, okay. So,
I mean, FYI, this particular Exhibit A attachment, it thinks it's a PDF, but it's not. It's got some real squirrely, I don't even know what it is.
But you know, it's opening on my computer.
It does open as a PDF, but you have to actually select
Select it.
Adobe to
Adobe,
open
yes.
it. It's
Right.
not being done
Yes.
automatically because it has a weird,
I just did it.
it has a weird suffix to it that's not allowing
Okay.
it to do it.
All right.
well, all I can tell you, with my tremendous technology expertise, it came up blank every time. After about 5 times, I said, to heck with this whole thing, but this doesn't make sense. Okay. So, basically, somehow, we're getting,
The reimbursement comes
Through
on-
SELPA.
through SELPA on that May 18th, 2006 agreement, which is not actually part of this, because this is just renewing the no-cost.
right, okay. Okay, now with all that explanation, as confusing as it is, I'll say go ahead and approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Barbara, P3B, consulting services for CA Stormwater, LACO contract.
Let me get over there.
We are hoping not to have this contract.
We were hoping not to ever have to have it again.
Apparently, because we wash things or some damn thing, we maintain the vehicles, we still have to do the stupid form.
How do you really feel about it, Larry?
My only question was, apparently we've negotiated a new contract, and it's no change from last year, but what's the cost of the contract?
$1,200.
$1,200 plus the $800 admin fee by LACO.
Okay.
And then that fee could go to $1,400.
Yeah.
There's 16 districts currently in the program, and if one district drops out, or
Then
the
our
cost will go up.
administrative fee goes up. no way we can get away from it because we have vehicles of our own.
We have an auto shop.
Right. So as long as we maintain our own vehicles, we are going to be. Okay, I move approval.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, P3C. I have a speaker. A long-suffering speaker.
Isn't this D?
Who is dying to come and talk to us at 9:43 in the evening. Don't you have to like teach a class at 5 tomorrow morning or something?
5:15. Okay. The American Fidelity idea, the only thing I want to know is how did they get chosen? And I've had a little conversation with this before with some other people in the district. I'd like to try to give to the people that work in the district a bigger view of different benefits that are offered by different companies. And a lot of teachers at our school use one financial person that we really like, and he's very into teaching and he knows how to explain retirement to people. And we'd like to bring him onto the site. And there's other teachers that have people that they'd like to bring on. So there's other companies that service teachers that do a really good job at it. Also, we have the Standard that does disability insurance, and when the district dropped the disability insurance because of the cost of it, the benefit was not worthy of paying for it. So all the teachers had to go outside and get it. So the Standard came in, they did a presentation, and a lot of teachers have it from them. I think it would be nice to share other ideas. I don't know how you picked American Fidelity. I don't know how that happened. But I'd like to know how you picked them. And then if it's possible to do maybe like a fair day where we could bring in these outside agencies, and have them present their product, like set up booths and have it from 3 to 6. And after school, teachers could come walk around and see what products there are out there, because they should know with all the changes and with the increases and things done for CalSTRS and all that. It would be nice to give them knowledge, and it would be nice to hear from other companies.
Okay.
That's all.
Thanks. So one of the approaches could be, because this is going to be an ongoing work for a while, and we're going to put together a group from the district to work on this. Have we put together a group that worked on this, or did the finance department come up with the first stab at this?
No, we came up with the first stab, and I'm hoping I'm going to clarify that this is strictly for the benefits committee that's going to review the benefits that we currently have and determine whether it's beneficial for us to change our carrier.
Right, so does it make any sense, I understand what you're saying, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm kind of cutting off because I want to get this to end. Does it make sense for that committee to interview 2 or 3 of these potential suppliers rather than just start the committee's work with one supplier picked in advance?
The reason we went with American Fidelity is we were looking for someone that'll help us through the process that would not have a stake in the game. Keenan provides the service, but Keenan also is a third-party administrator for health benefits. There's the Merge, a group that can provide the services, but they are also provide health benefits. So what we were trying to do was find a neutral party that will work through the process with us, educate the committee on what to look for, what's important, and so on, so that when we look at the different providers that are out there, we can make good, educated decision, and American Fidelity isn't going to try and sell their wares. So this is not for American Fidelity to get in and sell any of their products. This is simply
But there's probably more than just American Fidelity does the same thing.
Can I ask a clarifying question of the speaker? Are you referring to how a 403B vendor comes in?
I was just wondering why American Fidelity was chosen for this. Now I understand that it's just going to be for this committee.
Yes.
Which wasn't clear, and it's all. But we're going to pay them $19,000 to come in for one day and educate us.
I hope not one day.
No, it's an 18-month process.
You're going to have them as you're reviewing, you're going to have a consultant that will identify the playing field, will then help you review the proposals, and then give you guidance as to how to move forward if you want to adopt something else.
Kathy and I, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Kathy and I have already served on one of these health benefits committees, correct? Huh?
It was when we had no knowledge. I think this sounds good that we're gonna start out at least
Right.
getting some knowledge
But-
before we serve.
But I wanted to, have you ever served on one of these committees? Okay. Well, first of all, we had people coming from various companies who presented what they had, what their plan had, and this, that, and the other, and they could tell us the current rates and the future rates. But the problem we ran into had to do with CalPERS, if you recall, Kathy. And so that's my big question for this. Has CalPERS changed the date at which they announce when their new rates, what their new rates will be, starting in?
We get it in about July.
Well, this was the problem. I mean, we spent an enormous amount of time on an employee benefits committee looking at all these things, and at the end of the line, the sticking point was that CalPERS does not reveal their rates until the 11th hour. And
But
so,
that's true, but I think the point of I've been through exactly this. Our company has the exact same Anthem healthcare plans that we have through CalPERS. Our company with 1,000th, 100,000th, the number of people that CalPERS has, we have better rates. We have better rates than the existing CalPERS rates for the exact same coverage. Anthem Blue, for me, Anthem Blue Cross Choice Select, or whatever the hell it is. The exact same plan is $100 less for two of us in a company than it is me buying it through CalPERS. So you're right that the timing is right, but I think you can do a lot of preliminary work and may come to a conclusion that very rarely does healthcare rates go down from year to year. They do sometimes, but very rarely do go down. If you have identified and gone through the work and identified 2 or 3 companies that offer competitive plans that are cheaper than CalPERS is now, then you may want to just move forward without worrying about what CalPERS does. You may not come to that, and you may say, we got to wait for CalPERS, and that becomes a conclusion. But you don't know unless you go through the effort. I understand the frustration because of the timing.
right, because by the time you get the rates for CalPERS, school is out, you cannot get in touch with your employees to make a decision, and they give you 30 days.
Well, that's the election time, yeah.
Yeah, they give you 30 days from the time the rates are revealed, and you have to make a decision. And it's summertime, and everyone has scattered, and there you are in the committee. So, I mean, just having been through all this, Larry, you could be right, and there could be something so
But is-
fabulous out there, you know, that it's worth the $19,000. But at the end of the day, you can't move because CalPERS holds all the cards, and they're not going to tell you their rates till summer's here and everyone's gone, and you've got 30 days to make a selection for next year, and you can't get a hold of anybody. You're sunk, and that's what happened in the benefits.
Aren't we being asked here just to have this group help guide the committee? If I remember in the past, in this scenario that was just presented, we were trying to roll it ourselves.
Yes.
And as Barbara has pointed out, that didn't work out so well. So over 18 months, we're going to pay these folks to be our guidance counselors on the formation of the committee. So that's what's in front of us, not the squirreliness of CalPERS. Correct?
Correct.
So with that, I move approval.
Second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'm going to say no because it may very well be money not well spent at the end of the day.
Well, let's hope you're wrong, but
Yeah.
I hope I'm
we'll
wrong.
find out.
Well, you just described a scenario that convinced
And
me.
they can't fix
Yes.
CalPERS.
Well, maybe they know the back door that we didn't know.
Yeah. Maybe
All
Larry
right.
knows the back door, and we should just hire Larry.
We hire someone to guide us too, frankly.
Larry's in a volunteer.
P3D, Barbara.
That was just me again. And it had to do with the software. And so the cafeteria people need some sort of software to help them plan.
This is actually for, Patrick will probably be the only one using it. This is to help with the new guidelines where he will be able to put the recipe in for the item that he is serving, and it will tell him what the fat content is, the sodium content, the carbohydrates, the proteins, et cetera, to make sure it meets the state's new guidelines.
Which in the past hadn't mattered, but now the state has daily guidelines and weekly averages. So your average consumable lunch can't have more than, on average, 650 milligrams of sodium. But you can have 1,000 milligrams one day and 200 the other day. And to track it and do it is virtually impossible. People have tried this with spreadsheets, so there's a plethora of these options out here now that people are using.
Okay.
And we
Let
did
me
check
ask
around.
But my question is, can he actually operate the software? Can he operate it, or can someone in his department operate it?
Well,
Pat's
based
a
on
real
the
smart
demos
guy.
that he's viewed, he believes he can. And Torrance, I asked him to check other districts, and Torrance has already been using this software, and they're really happy with it.
I just didn't want to have a situation where the person can't work the software, and then we have to go hire another person because no one can work the software, so.
Yeah, this stuff is actually really simple. It mostly relies on having a database. I use this kind of stuff all
That's
the
the
time.
only question. You promised me there's someone already employed who can work it, and that's all I care about.
It's simple and intuitive, it says.
If they can't, we'll find out.
All right.
Okay, I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're on to information items. We have them. We're up to board report, I hope. Okay, Barbara.
Oh, SoCal ROC. You've already heard that there is money in the budget. It's a grant, it's an application process, but we are hopeful. There's nothing for sure that we're going to qualify for the grant. That's the good news. So
And then we'll have more.
we'll have
coming
more at the
board meeting.
February 12th meeting when we talk about all this.
Report on assignments of Chief Executive Officer.
Okay, my conversation with Walker, he is assisting the HR department with the Public Employment Relations Board hearing that has been scheduled for May. He continues rewriting job descriptions, so we will end up with a uniform system at the end. And unfortunately, he is still very busy satisfying public record searches, request searches. He continues to do that. Oftentimes, these requests that have been coming in are redundant, and in my opinion, they are, in many times, disingenuous. So when Walker's service is done with the district at the end of June, we're going to have to find someone to spend a lot of valuable time if this continues. So that's
Yeah,
my report.
And the sad thing is that the records requests are very open-ended, so it's not just that you go look at 3 documents somewhere. We have to search through hundreds of, tens of thousands of emails.
Come up
for
to his
everything.
office and look at the piles and piles.
It's not even maybe what the person who asked the records request was intending. Sometimes it's exactly what they're intending.
But that's why I
But
say it's disingenuous.
But it's a tremendous waste of money, frankly. I mean, it's their right, but if they could
Yeah.
tailor it at least to be specific so that we weren't making
Right.
so much time and effort in some of them, it would be helpful. There are some I've seen that are very tailored, very specific, very simple, and those they deserve to get the information as quickly as they can. Okay, we haven't had school use facilities subcommittee or report of facilities needs assessment committee because it just got disbanded. Congratulations. So, do we have any individual board member reports because it wasn't actually listed here that we would do that? It says our reports of board members and then all the subs, but doesn't, I guess.
Well, that's
Yeah.
intuitive that you're going to.
Okay, so Barbara, would you like to say anything more?
I've already said enough.
Malcolm, would you like to say anything more?
Yes. The superintendent and I spent quality time the second weekend in December in San Francisco at the very interestingly scheduled CSBA annual conference beginning on a Sunday and ending on a Tuesday. And as we all know, it came down from Sinai that the conference is supposed to start on a Thursday and end on a Saturday. But through a scheduling snafu with the Moscone Center, they had to do this kind of a schedule. So, yes, but my observation, having also represented the board at last year's conference in San Diego, that this one was very well attended. I think much better attended, maybe the difference between San Francisco and San Diego. But nonetheless, overarching theme, and I'm sorry some of the members of our audience have decided to depart, overarching theme of, I said some, not all, overarching theme of this conference was Common Core, come and get it. And there were, the strands included student learning, opportunity achievement, partnerships and collaborations, funding, finance, and facilities. And there were sessions, three a day over 3 days. I would say half of the sessions I attended had a Common Core theme to them, whether it was civic engagement or facilities or superintendent evaluation. It was the theme, and it was the implementation. The great thing about going to a conference like that, it gives at least me, having stayed away from these conferences for a number of years and then going last year and this year, it just gives you a point of relativity. You break the bounds of your own district, listen to these people who are from little bitty districts up by the Oregon border to, our larger districts. So I would hope next year in San Diego that we have more members of the board attend. Very worthwhile. The other thing is that we attended the ribbon cutting last Friday at PV High that Don mentioned earlier with the Learning Center, that they repurposed some space, and it's great space. There were people from other districts in the SELPA to get an idea what this thing looked like, so it was kind of like a model facility, and so that was a very nice thing. I'm done.
Tony.
Yeah, is it February 5th that we're hosting? Is it an LCAP or LCFF? Are we hosting something at the district in Palos Verdes? Help me out. Yes, for other districts through LACO? No? A training? I think we are.
I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Oh, it wasn't a quiz. I have a lot of colleagues off the Hill that my understanding is we are hosting something. I think it is some sort, and they're very excited. So everybody's been asking me, I can't wait to see the district and the office, and we're coming up, and they're kind of giving me a heads up. So
Go show them the superintendent.
Yes, we are.
So my point was going to be, I think if that is in fact happening, that we, I don't think the general public would be so interested. Yes.
Yes, we are hosting the LCAP with Innovate Ed in Jay Westover on the 5th of February.
Good, because they were coming whether we were hosting it or not. My point was going to be, they're excited about it, and even though I think the average community stakeholder may not be, I think it's really important that we're doing things like this, and I just want to commend whomever scheduled it and let you know that people are excited about it. One other thing was...
That was done through a Civic Center application?
Really?
There you go.
Oh, for God's sake.
On school duty. Anyhow, the other thing I want to just point out, I know Linda and I have been on campus a lot. We have middle schoolers, and it's kind of the winter, spring season for sports. And if you're on any middle school campus after school during the middle of the week, it is buzzing. And there's got to be 5, 6, 7, 8 different sports playing other teams in the South Bay. And I just assume that went on at every school. And I think what I'm learning is it does not. And there's a lot of schools that don't have those opportunities. So I think it's...
You're not talking about Palos Verdes.
No, I'm talking about other schools and other districts that do not have it. No, all of our, at least middle schools, have teams that are competing. And I didn't know that there were other schools, middle schools in the South Bay that didn't get to do that. So I wanted to just commend the folks that are a part of those programs after school, working with our kids. And finally, I just wanted to welcome Linda, who at this point is probably questioning if she really wanted to do this.
Questioning her sanity at this point.
Linda.
I'll just say really quick, thank you to everyone for answering all my questions. I think pretty much everyone here has answered at least a dozen questions, probably maybe more. I've been trying to get out and see some of the schools and meet the people there without taking up too much of their workday. And that's been very, very educational for me, to really sit and talk with them. Our 3 high school principals are unbelievable. They're so fantastic. And so I look forward to getting to know them more and helping them with anything that they need. And thanks to Deb for sitting here this whole time, listening to all of us. But we need people in the community. I wish there were more people who would come and question stuff more, because that's just politely. But if they could do that anytime, that's great.
Well, welcome. And at 10:05, we are adjourned.
I need everyone to sign things tonight.